The story starts with a room full of people telling someone named Lloyd that he has to get out of the party. The hero, Alan, tells him that he is always just fumbling around in the back. He is told that he is quite useless as well as quite the eyesore. The archer, Ruru, tells him that it's an honor to be a part of the hero's party and that he is not even competent. Upon hearing this, Lloyd starts questioning if he really isn't good enough. He is told that he is a white mage, but that he had left the healing to Sheena. The Saint Sheena tells him that he is the reason why Alan's reputation is going down the drain. The shield woman, Lena, tells him that she has misjudged him and asks him if he was aware that his ability was lacking in the first place. Alan tells Lloyd that these are the reasons why he needs to leave, but also tells him that before he does leave, he needs to give them money. Lloyd again asks him why, and Alan, feeling really frustrated, tells him that it is the nuisance fee that he has to pay for dragging the rest of them down. Lloyd starts doubting that they will let him go if he doesn't pay, but also knows that he only has a bit of money left. He hands them the money, and upon seeing it, Alan comments on how they will have a very good meal tonight. They all thank Alan for kicking out Lloyd and start celebrating as Lloyd is leaving. Lloyd starts thinking about how if he knew how much they hated him, he would have asked his master to teach him the skills of how to get along with people. He flashes back to his master telling him that she wants to create a magic that stops aging. He thinks about how he was picked up by his master and had spent most of his childhood in the mountains, doing chores, following experiments, and training early in the morning day after day. She had told Lloyd that he was still just a boy and therefore should not become too overconfident in his abilities. He ponders how he had learned a lot, but every day used to be like hell, and he had become sick of it, so he had fled to the city of Ishtar to live freely in a wider world without being bound by a master. He had noticed a statue of his master in the city as well and had thought about how famous she had become. He was looking at the statue when he was approached by a girl asking him if he too was a fan of Merlin. He had said he wasn't, and she had become shocked. She tells him that there is no time for chit-chat, and she has to find a free white mage somehow by tomorrow. She had been running around the city but had no luck. Lloyd tells her that he is a white mage, and she tells him that she had never heard of him and asked him if he was an adventurer. He tells her that he is free, and she asks him if that means he is a free white mage, and if he can come with her for just a second. They enter a hall, and the girl announces that she is back. The man tells her that that was fast and asks her if there were any free white mages. She tells him that she had found one and introduces all of them to Lloyd, but she tells them that he is a mage, and she still thinks they should decline the request. The Archer Cross tells them that it would be impossible to get an E-rank request without her. The Shield Man tells them that he doubts that Lloyd will be able to take her place and substitute for her. Silica the Wizard agrees. Lloyd is confused as he had never actually accepted anything about joining them. The girls ask them what would happen if they refused the clients and how there is someone that needs their help. The man says that it's more for the client's welfare than their own, but if more people fail a request, the higher the rank of the request gets. The reward paid by the client is proportionate to the rank of the request. In other words, the burden of the client also increases, and that's why it's not easy to get a request from a client. He asks why they don't just give the request to another party, to which they tell him that there's a limit to this request. They tell him that they are an S-ranked party, and there's no other party in town that fits the requirements. Lloyd asks if S rank is the highest rank. He tells them that adventurers are only allowed to work within registered parties, and that they can't borrow from other people or any other parties. Lloyd says that he would love to help, but that it is too much for him. The girl says that he is a great mage, and therefore they should be okay, and might be able to accomplish the request. The girl tells him to show his skills. He apologizes for getting their hopes up and thinks to himself that he will just end up disappointing them. However, they tell him that he just needs to cast a strengthening spell on all of them. They say that might be too much for a white mage, but Lloyd thinks this is actually pretty easy. She asks him if he can do it. He thinks about how he thought they would ask him to perform some very difficult magic since they are testing him to see if he would make it into the S-rank party, but even this he can easily do. He tells them that he can do it. He thinks about how they are looking for something more. He takes out a wand, and they think about how odd it is. Lloyd thinks about how he will cast an enchantment spell on all of them all at once. He thinks about how he will apply 5 effects: body strengthening, enhanced defense, enhanced magic power, reduced mana consumption, and status resistance. He realizes that he needs to work on his training more. They all ask him where he just pulled the wand from. He tells them that he has a storage space. The girl asks him what he thinks of enhancement magic. They tell him that they don't feel different but somehow feel lighter. The girl asks them to wait and yields her sword, hitting a tree which comes clean off. They all are very impressed. He thinks he hasn't done it right, but the girl asks him to wait and asks him if he would like to join the party. He asks if it is the party led by one of the four heroes, and they say it is. He asks if they had a white mage before him and where she is. They tell him that they just need him for this one mission. That her name was Crumb, and her sister was very sick, so she had been working as an adventurer and taking care of her every day, and because of that, she got in pretty bad shape. They tell him that that is the reason she can't join them on this quest, that it has always become a problem and is now starting to become more worrisome. The girl says that she suggested that Crumb leave the party, but she had said that it would cause trouble for them, which is why they were looking for another white mage. She apologizes for dragging him into this, but he says that if he can be of any help, he wants to help and wants to be let into the party if they are okay with it. They welcome him and say they look forward to working with him. He says he does too, and they all decide to have a party to welcome him, which would also double as a strategy meeting. All the heroes can be seen sitting side by side at the dinner table. They all cheers to and celebrate Lloyd joining the party. Sheena the Saint tells Lloyd that today's treat is on them and that he should eat and drink as much as his heart desires. Douglas notices that he isn't drinking and asks him if he doesn't want to or if he is just not good with beer. He says he isn't, and Douglas tells him that in that case he should not overdo it. Silica the wizard tells Lloyd that she doesn't drink either and that she just prefers juice instead. Lloyd tells them that it's not he can't drink, but that his experiences with beer have been a little traumatic. Sheena asks him what he means, and Archer tells her that she shouldn't be asking those types of questions. Lloyd flashes back to 2 years ago when his master had told him that he was now old enough to drink and that they should celebrate. He tells her he won't be drinking, but she pops open a bottle anyways and tells him not to be shy. She tells him not to be shy and that they should drink 10-20 bottles. He thinks about how he got forced into drinking so much that night that he threw up till the end of it, and how it was hell. After hearing this, they all sit there in silence until Sheena finally says, "Speaking of that, what sort of person was Lloyd's master?" She asks him what she was like. Archer also seems interested, and Silica also asks him if that person was also a white mage. He says, not quite. If anything, she would fall into the offensive magic category. Silica asks how, even though she isn't a white mage, she still teaches and supports magic. Douglas, upon hearing this, comments about how he is far better than he is. Silica says that she would love to take lessons. He tells her not to do it, and that the only thing it teaches them is stuff of nightmares. They all decide that it's finally time to have the strategy meeting. Sheena says she isn't good at explaining things and asks Douglas to go ahead. He tells her she has to do better than that, even if she is the leader hypothetically. She asks what he means by hypothetically. Douglas begins to explain, starting with saying that the request this time is to take down a pack of high wolves which are destroying a plantation. Lloyd thinks about his information on high wolves and how they usually live in packs of several in the forest, hunting monsters and other creatures to live. Lloyd asks what the plantation is growing, and Silica tells him that it's just vegetables, no livestock or anything like that. Lloyd thinks about how high wolves are carnivores and how he has never heard of packs destroying a farm. Sheena interrupts his thought, telling them that for this request, the difficulty is increasing due to the large number of high wolves. It doesn't specify how many, and all they know is that the number is quite large. Sheena mentions that if there is too many of them, they will have to rely on Silica. Silica agrees and says that magic attacks a wide range of areas and consumes a lot of mana, and that depending on the number of enemies it would be difficult. Sheena asks if Lloyd won't be able to use offensive magic, and he says that it's not useless, but that a white mage can't generate as much firepower as a professional, that it would be more efficient to support Silica. Silica says he is looking forward to it, and he says she shouldn't get her hopes up. Sheena tells Lloyd that he should have more confidence in himself. The others tells her that it makes sense considering all that Lloyd has been through. Archer says that he knows guys like Lloyd who just put on airs because they are too strong. Douglas tells them that he will tell them what he has in mind. The plan is that first you and him will draw in the enemy's attention, and that once they are gathered in 0-1 place, Silica will strike. Archer asks what her role will be and that she needs to protect Silica and Lloyd. She tells Lloyd that he just needs to take care of support and recover. They all decide that they do not have any more information and that they will decide the rest later. Sheena says that will all that decided they should go all out with drink. Douglas stops her and tells her that they are all, and have an important quest to do tomorrow. She tells him that she hasn't had enough to drink yet. Lloyd agrees and they all decide they should head out. Lloyd asks if they can just tell him where to meet them tomorrow, and Douglas asks him if he is not staying at the same inn, and he says that he can't stay there. He tosses Lloyd a bag filled to the brim with coins, and Lloyd tells Douglas that he can't accept, but Douglas says that he won't leave it like that he will subtract it from the reward. He tells him to come fast as the others are waiting on them. Lloyd agrees and says that he will work and pay him back for it. The party is just packed with kind people. The hero Alan is seen attacking a herd of enemies, questioning how they became so strong. Ruru says that her arrows are getting shut off and that she doesn't know what's happening. Mia says that the golems never used to be this strong and that something is not right. These golems that they used to be a piece of cake not too long ago. Alan says that there is no way that the hero's party could lose. They notice that something is behind the golems and they see a pack of wolves. They are shocked as the wolves run towards them and begin to attack. He calls out to Lena and tells her to look behind her as he almost bites her in the arm. She thinks about how that was a close call, but she ends up getting bit. Alan tells her that she needs to get a hold of herself and that she needs to start healing herself. She says she understands and that she will. They think about how they are right, and as long as they have got Sheena's healing magic and that they can still fight. It dawns on them that Lena's arm may not regenerate. Ruru says that they should retreat. They all start feeling frustrated, wondering why this is happening. Gradually, word spread throughout the kingdom that Alan and his party had failed in their request and fled. Lena wakes up and wishes the rest good morning as she sees them all standing around her. They all toss their things to Lloyd and ask him to store them in his inventory, and he agrees. They all breathe a sigh of relief over not having to carry all the heavy equipment. They all think about how it's going to be a long journey and that this will help them reach faster. Lloyd tells them that it isn't that hard to have an inventory and that he will teach them how to do it later. They are all happy that they can do it too. He says that it's just learning and that in around an hour should be enough to teach them. Ruru says that it may take some time to increase the storage capacity. Ruru thinks about how many arrows she could carry with it. They all decide to leave and head out on their long journey. The chapter starts with all of them in the forest trying to build a tent. Once they have successfully done so, Douglas tells them that it's all done. Silica says that she is really glad that they hot to the encampment point early, and Ruru adds that there wasn't enough luggage to carry either, so it had made everything very easy. Douglas says that now they just need to get a fire going. Sheena informs them that she had seen a river earlier and asks if she can maybe go and take a bath with Silica. Douglas says that that is not a problem and that he wants to as well. Ruru tells them that she will stay there and that Lloyd can stay with her and that they can gather firewood. She tells them that if anything happens that they should use the flare gun and let each other know right away. They all agree and part ways. Lloyd heads out to look for firewood, and after gathering quite a bit, he starts wondering if it's enough. He then looks up and thinks about how there is still plenty of space left in his storage, and that he should probably grab a few more, just in case they need it. He looks up at one of the trees and notices some fruit hanging from it. He climbs the tree and grabs hold of one of them, recalling how this is the same fruit as the one near his master's house. He remembers how the fruit was very sweet and nutritious, and that he should probably grab a few more to take back for the others. As he tries to grab more, he loses his footing and falls off the tree into a body of water, ending up soaked. He thanks God that there was a river below him and that he didn't get injured. He hears someone's voice calling to him and looks up to see Sheena and Silica, both bathing naked. They ask him what he is doing there, and he starts feeling embarrassed. He tells them that it was a mistake and apologizes, explaining that he had fallen into the river. Lloyd heads back to the camp, and Douglas tells him that he is late. They also notice that the girls are with him. Sheena tells the rest of them that they had run into Lloyd on their way back, and that they were just chatting as they walked back. Lloyd recalls how he had explained to the girls what had happened, and somehow they had managed to get them to believe him. He tells them that he is in their debt somehow. They build a fire, and now they just need to figure out how to keep watch for tonight. Lloyd tells them that they're going to take turns in pairs. Sheena asks him if he would like to stand guard with her tonight. He says that if it's okay with her, he is okay with it as well. He then thinks that Yu perhaps wants to keep an eye on him while everyone else is asleep to make sure he doesn't do something strange. Sheena also thinks that she needs to look out because of what had happened earlier. They decide to do their best and start. The night dawns and begins to get dark outside. There don't seem to be any monsters. Lloyd and Sheena sit by the fire, keeping a keen eye on their surroundings. Sheena tells him that she is sorry for getting him involved in this unreasonable request, and Lloyd says that he was troubled and he didn't have a job. Sheena says that it's just that she got him involved at a difficult time. He asks her why she is so obsessed with the request. Sheena says that it reminds her of her hometown and how a fire had eaten everything up. She recalls how awful it was when some people had suddenly attacked them, a pack of monsters, that there was only one survivor, and that was her. She recalls being surrounded by people asking her to stay awake. She says that that's why she couldn't let it be when she heard about the pack of monsters. Besides that, if the plantations ran out of food, small towns and villages would be in trouble. Lloyd says he understands, and they hear a strange sound. They look behind and see something big approaching them. As it gets near, they realize that it is a huge spider with 8 tentacles. She shouts that it's a pollark. Lloyd tells her that it will be troublesome to deal with it when it's just the two of them. Sheena asks Shim to please go and wake up Douglas and the others, and says that she will buy them some time. Lloyd says he will and goes to the others. A few moments later, they notice that the spider is turning away from them and crawling in the opposite direction. Lloyd asks Sheena what this means, and she says that maybe there is a monster nearby that has scared off the pollark. She says that even if that isn't the case, she can still sense some danger in the vicinity. She tells him that she feels like they are safe for now, and he says he agrees. A few days after leaving Ishtar, Sheena says that she thinks something is off about this forest, and Ruru says she agrees, adding that she doesn't see a single monster. Lloyd tells them that he can use detection magic sometimes, but that it wouldn't keep any monsters away. Sheena asks him what exactly the situation is, and he says he will widen his detection range a little bit. As he does, his eyes widen. The others ask him what's wrong, and he says that there are a lot of monsters gathering in one place up ahead. They are all shocked upon hearing this. He tells them that it is about 10 kilometers ahead from where they are, and that he can feel the presence of a large number of monsters up ahead. Ruru says that that is right where they are headed. Silica asks if by any chance he is saying that he can detect everything in that range. He says that he can, and if he had ate something wrong. Douglas tells Sheena that he knows what she is feeling, but that right now is not the time for that. They ask Lloyd if he knows their exact location, and if that is the case. Ruru says that just when he thought he has seen everything he could do, he kept giving them more. It seemed like the pack is located in the client's plantation, but, and he takes a pause. All of them, frustrated, ask him what's wrong. As they approach a landfill, they see a lot of monsters all standing together in one area. Lloyd thinks about how strange this is, and Sheena agrees. Lloyd tells him it's not just that, but also that this is the only place where detection magic showed any sign of monsters, so where had all the others gone? Silica says that that's true, that there are supposed to plenty of other monsters stronger than the high wolves. That there wasn't even a hint of struggle in the forest. Douglas says that in other words, the monsters vanished without a fight. They wonder where the owner of the plantation is, and that he is pretty sure he got injured because of this. He tells them that he is at his son's house apparently. Lloyd thinks about Ho, if there were only any clues as to how any of this happened. Ruru points at something and asks what that is. None of the others can see what they were pointing at. Lloyd says that he sees it too, and that she is right. He says that he could see because he had used enchantment magic, and if he should cast it on all of them as well, they agree. And they say that just like the cross said, it was a strange stone. They are all curious about the mist, and that it's likely mana. Lloyd says that he hadn't noticed it in the midst of the high wolves, but that black stone is radiating mana. She says that she has heard about this from his master, that some beast men are capable of rare magic that allows them to control monsters. That if such magic exists, that the detection magic is sensing monsters. A separate pack of monsters are headed this way. They all agreed that they were all being set up by someone. Lloyd tells the rest of them that it seems they have been set up. Sheena asks if any of them had done something to tick someone off. They all say they have not. Sheena asks Lloyd what he can tell them about the incoming horde, and he says that they are made up of a bunch of different species of monsters. As for the size of the mob, that they were a bit more than a few thousand. They are all shocked and ask if he is joking because that sounds insane. Lloyd starts to wonder if there is someone trying to get rid of them, and that if that is the case, that this is a roundabout way of doing so. They start thinking about how maybe they are trying to keep them away from Ishtar. That they may have gathered high wolves so that their victims would post a quest to get rid of them. To lure the only S-rank party in Ishtar out there. Sheena says that it would be better to get out of there. They all say that Lloyd can use his detection magic to avoid the horde, but he says that that is not an option. He says that they can't be sure that they will be able to lose them, that if they were to end up catching their scent and following them. They say they would end up fighting near the town. meaning that bystanders could end up getting hurt. They decide that there is only one thing to do. Lloyd says that they should fight. Sheena says that he is right. They decide that they will have to fight and that it seems like the only option that they have got. Sheena asks how they are going to take on that many enemies, and they asks if Ruru can hit the stone. She asks if they mean the black one, and she says that she can. Ruru says that she thinks she will be able to. The only question is whether she will be able to break it or not. The others tell him not to overthink it and take the shot, but she says that his power isn't enough. Lloyd says that it's his job to provide support and that she loads an arrow and takes aim and shoots. The arrow shoots out and it hits the stone and it breaks apart. They all praise her and she asks Lloyd what he did to her arrow as it felt way stronger than normal. He tells them that all he did was cast an enchantment magic on his bow and his arrow. They ask if he can power up any weapon and a person at the same time. He says that it's only natural that they would be able to that. He says that all he can do besides that is increase his power. Ruru wonders how it only took him a single shot to hit a target at such a long range. No wonder he isn't a range adventurer. They turn around and see a large amount of wolves attacking them. The herd is huge and they all start to fight. Lloyd says that the magic that was binding the wolves has now been dispelled, that this won't take care of all of them, but that it should reduce their numbers by a decent amount. Sheena says that now they can focus on their fight with the other horde. She thinks about how it was incredible that Lloyd knew that breaking the stone would do this. Lloyd thinks about how they got lucky and that the next horde won't be as easy. He thinks about how all the monsters aren't all the same species and no black stone to take advantage of either, but that luckily there don't seem to be any especially strong monsters. He thinks that if there are this many enemies, he asks Silica what elemental magic she can use if any. She tells him that she can use fire, water, and wind, all four of the elementary elements. He asks Ruru about if her arrow cross supplies, including the one that she is holding on to, how many he has, and she tells him that she has about 100 left. Lloyd says that if they are up for it, he has a plan. They agree. As they wait, they realize that the monsters have arrived. Silica notices that there are a lot of them. Silica shouts to Lloyd and asks if they are close enough. Lloyd tells them not yet and they need to be a little closer. As they get a little close, he shouts, letting them know now. Silica uses her wand and summons a firestorm. They all note how amazing what she did was, and Sheena asks her what it was that she did, and that it seemed 10 times stronger than usual. Enhanced magic power and reduced mana consumption enhancement on her. Sheena asks if that was all, and Lloyd says that that was not enough. He asks her if she is good to keep going, and she says that she has enough mana for 5 more of them. He says that she should cast 3 more, and that then they should switch to wine magic. Silica says she understands. Lloyd says that next he will head to the hills where Cross is standing by. He says that he will enchant his arrow with enhancement magic. He says that it should be about time with the flames fanned by Silica's wind magic. A huge area of the forest has been set ablaze, letting equally a great amount of smoke, that this should obscure the flying monster's visions. He tells Cross to go for it, and that he will locate the monster's position with his detection magic and will transmit them to Cross. He asks her if she can see them. Cross says that it's like there is no smoke at all. She takes her bow and takes aim. She starts shooting the dragons. Lloyd tells them that everything has gone perfectly so far, that most of the monsters on the ground have been taken care of. He guesses that it's about time and shouts to Silica, telling her that they should advance to the next phase. She says she agrees, but that her mana has almost been fully drained. Lloyd says he knows, which is why he will transfer some to her. They hold hands and he transfers the mana dot. As he does, he collapses and she asks him if he is okay. He says he is, and that he just expended a lot of mana, but that the important thing was that she had the mana. Silica casts another fire spell, and Lloyd thinks that he won't have to worry about the flames spreading to the rest of the mountain now. Silica says that that is true, but that is all she has, and after saying that, she collapses to the ground. They all tell her good work, and that now she should leave the rest of work up to them. Sheena tells Silica to get some rest, and that they will take care of everything else. Silica says that she shouldn't go overboard, to which Sheena says that she is in no position to say that. Sheena says that it's amazing that you were able to come up with this sort of strategy. Lloyd says that he didn't do anything special and that all he did was what was expected of him as a support role. Sheena says that with this sort of line and then trails off. They tell Lloyd to sit tight and leave the rest to them. Lloyd says that he will take him up on that, but that before that, with the last bit of mana, he does an enchantment magic bestowal. He wonders if this is enough to wear him out, and that if it was, that he has a long way to go. Sheena thinks about how Lloyd's enhancement magic sure is amazing. Duggett tells them that they are almost done and that nothing is showing up with detection magic either. Lloyd tells Silica that she is right, and she says that she has rested enough, and they all decide that they should hurry back towards the city. Sheena says that they don't really need to hurry. Lloyd says that if he is correct, the real target of the people behind this is Ishtar, and they all seem shocked over this. Lloyd says that this request seems like it was a trick to keep the S-ranked adventurers away from Ishtar without raising any suspicion. Sheena starts wondering why they would want to keep the heroes away. Ruru says that Ishtar not only has knights, but that the hero is also there. Lloyd says that it won't fall that easily, and that that's what everyone thinks. He says that if they just wanted to hurt the kingdom, they'd attack a more defenseless city. The others ask him then why were they put in this position. He says that he doesn't know and that he can't quite explain it, but that just in case, they should probably hurry back. We see a house that's deep in the forest. Inside there are four hooded figures who are standing over a table thinking that everything is going according to their plan. One of them say that the S-ranked adventurers have been lured away from the city, that they have heard that the heroes' party in the city is quite skilled, that a little strengthening was enough to make the golems a threat to them, that they're quite weak compared to the other heroes. He says the shield woman had lost her hand so easily, and they all think that it was hilarious, that the saint said to be able to heal any wound is a total fraud. He says that it serves that dependent hero right, and that without a doubt their plan will succeed. And this woman Yu, who is locked up with chains to the wall of the house, he says that still the magic is quite convenient. They say that they should have this beast man continue assisting them, that they must not fail, that their plan must succeed for the sake of their boss and for the sake of the demon lord. Meanwhile, in Ishtar, Alan is screaming saying that he is surrounded by incompetence, that even though the hero's party is looking for members, they should forget about finding a shield woman like Lena, but to not even find a useless support like the trash Lloyd. Sheena paces wondering what they are going to do, that they can't even find any people. Mia thinks about how the level requirement Alan posted is certainly very high, but the real reason no one is applying is probably because of the quest that they had failed a few days ago. She thinks that the rumors have probably spread to the royal capital, how their comrade was seriously injured, that they have failed the quest and had accepted and had run away. She thinks that no matter how famous the hero is, there aren't many who would play with that hanging over their heads. Mia tells Alan that for now they have a few replacements for Lena, that the problem is finding a replacement for that trash, referring to Lloyd. They tell him that at the very least they can find someone who can use storage magic, that none of the applicants can use it, that all of them can only cast 2 enchantment spells simultaneously. Ruru asks him what they shall do without them. He says that this one seems like their best option for now. There is a knock at the door and the soldiers of Ishtar ask the Lord Hero to excuse them. He asks them what business the knights have with him. They say that they had received a message from one of the knights that was on watch in the forest currently, that there is a horde of monsters heading towards Ishtar. Alan, sounding confused, asks a horde, and the Solider says that they number 10,000. This astounds all the heroes as they try to accept the number. Alan asks them what they want from him. The knights say that he would like to request assistance from the hero to subjugate them, and that they are making emergency requests. Requests that the Order of Knights make during times of emergency. Essentially, it was when the hero's party is obligated to accept the request and join them. That if the request is declined without a valid reason, the hero will be stripped of their title. The knights tell him they will be waiting outside and head out. Alan asks Sheena what she thinks will happen if he declines, and she says that he will most definitely be stripped of his title. She says that since their funding comes from the country, if it comes out of their taxes, there most definitely will be backlash from the citizens of Ishtar. Alan asks, but if that flipped around, if they were to do their part, that they could possibly erase their failure. He asks Sheena if he is right, and she says that he is. Mia says that this is an emergency request, and that furthermore, the city's fate is at stake and hangs in the balance. She says that not only will the failure be erased, but that Sir Alan's reputation would probably eclipse that of the other 3 heroes. He says he understands, and Ruru asks if he is sure about that, and he starts running out saying that they will go and exterminate those monsters, that they should go get ready quickly, and they will take the center stage. He says that he wants to show people that he is the strongest. The rest of them look at him in silence. As they get to the mountains, they think about how Lloyd's magic can do anything. Sheena tells him that they're running several times as fast as they normally do, and yet somehow they are still not breathless. Duggett thinks about how they will be able to reach Ishtar in no time if they continue at this pace. Lloyd tells them that it's nothing and that he just improved enchantment magic and optimized it for running, which is why they were all feeling that way. Silica asks him if he is alright that continuously using enhancement magic is said to normally consume a lot of mana. Lloyd tells her that it normally does that only if the person is not used to it, but that once you figure out the trick, it is easy to reduce the amount of power being used. Lloyd then corrects himself, saying that not trick, but that if used often it gets easier to use, that it'll be back in a week. He flashes back to his master, telling him to survive till then. He remembers being in the middle of the forest. A white mage can't defeat monsters on their own, and so all he could do was run. He remembers needing to have good control over various enhancement magic to survive, and how he had experimented with new spells to use and how it was good training. Sheena tells him that he had gone through such harsh training, and he says that he thinks it was because he was too inexperienced and he had thought that it was normal, that his master had told him that he needed to be able to endure at least that much, that his teacher was always angry at him no matter what. Sheena tells him that that kind of training wasn't normal. He starts thinking that if it wasn't, it may be below the normal standards, just like he had though, S-ranked adventurers were on another level. He says that that might be true, but that he was still not good enough, and to this Sheena says that he definitely took it the wrong way and she didn't mean it like that. They reach deeper into the forest and Lloyd stops, saying that his detection magic is picking up several signs of life. Ruru asks if there are more monsters that didn't get controlled, and if that is the case they don't need to worry. Lloyd tells them that he has a bad feeling about this, that he hasn't felt this kind of presence ever before. He tells them that they can all go ahead and that he will come back as soon as he check out what wrong. They all say they will come with him, but he says she has to go alone. They say that they can't know what could happen and that he can't fight alone. They tells him that they're his party and that they will come with him. Lloyd says that they are so reliable and tell him that they should follow him. Alan arrived at the Adventurers Guild. He asked if they were the ones that were taking on the request, and then remarked that they looked weaker than expected. He didn't worry, as he said he did not expect much of his companion either. An adventurer was shocked at his statement, leading him to ask if all adventurers were senseless as well. A nearby knight informed Alan that the reason these adventurers looked weak was because all S-rank adventurers were out, and since Ishtar had no A ranks, all the adventurers here were B rank and under. This led Alan to refer to them as meat shields and told them not to get in his way. His comments and attitude attracted many unhappy looks from the adventurers around. He was called to start the strategy meeting for the monster subjugation. He walked up, sat on a stool with his legs crossed, and started telling them his plan. He told them that the mages would cast their most powerful spells, creating a huge explosion. This should allow them to take out about 10 monsters each. He went on to say that during this time, while the mages used their magic, he, along with the knights, would buy them some time and keep the monsters busy. Furthermore, he said that it should be enough for this mob of monsters, and when the mages restored their mana, they would use their attacks again and just repeat the entire process all over again. The other adventurers questioned his plan, to which he told them to stand and asked them what their problem was. A mage stood and told him that, while she was a mage, she was unable to use her magic that powerfully. Another said the same, and a third stated that he would only be able to take out one at best. As the commotion carried on, Mia stepped forward and said she doubted she could either, resulting in Alan asking if she was serious. He asked her if she was still worried about what happened and told her that it was a one-off. Muya told him that afterward, she had tried many times, but it was all for nothing, and she went on to say that she had never been able to use magic like that. Upon hearing this, the rest of the adventurers' worry increased. They questioned that if the hero's party wasn't even capable of doing this, then how would they be able to? Alan asked Lulu and Shina to intervene. They talked to Mia and told her that Alan was right and it was just a one-off. They told her not to worry and that she had only failed once. They went on to say that she shouldn't let that one instance get her down. Alan told her that as long as he's around, the monsters won't win. Before he could finish his sentence, Mia interjected and told him that he hadn't practiced for some time since they failed the request. He asked if he could still say it'll be fine since he hadn't been doing anything. The crowd tried to understand what she meant, and they questioned his lack of practicing. He tried to answer, saying that he was busy recruiting new members, but Mia told him that she couldn't take it anymore. She told him that he was far more dazzling before, and right now, he was not the Alan she loved. She dashed away as Alan called to her. Alan tried to go after Mia, but a wall of knights formed, blocking his path. He told them to get out of his way, but they questioned him about his lack of practice. They went on to say that he had not only stopped practicing but was also losing party members. He quipped that it's not a big deal since he is a hero. The guard felt disgusted and shoved Alan, telling him that he didn't deserve to call himself a hero. Alan stood there dazed, shocked, and confused by what the knight had just done. He lunged forward in anger, lifting his fist and moving in to punch the knight. But the knight blocked it, grabbing Alan's fist. He thought that he didn't remember heroes being so weak. The knights told him to get out of there, and his companions came to his side, telling them not to speak to him in such a way. Alan stood between Lulu and Shaina as one of them told him they should just leave. Alan looked at the crowd full of unwelcoming faces, asked what their problem was, and headed to the door. He violently shoved the door open and, as he was leaving, told them that he didn't care what happened to any of them and left. As they walked away from the meeting, Mia asked Alan, should we have left? She told him that if they didn't participate in the emergency request, they would face consequences. He said that he knew and told them that the other adventurers couldn't handle it on their own. He suggested that they should leave them be, and when they fail, they would come back to them for help. Back in the midst of the other adventurers' conversation, they expressed their disappointment, saying that the hero was nothing like what they had heard. The knight noted something weird, stating that before the battle, the hero's party had been strong and had excellent coordination, along with superb plans. He wondered why they had changed and what had happened to them. As the knight lost himself in thought, Lady Lena walked in, and her entrance shocked the knight. She told him that she might not be able to do much, but she wanted to participate. She mentioned that she couldn't fight like she used to and wasn't sure if she would be of any use, but at least she could be a shield for everyone else. She bowed in front of the knight, requesting to fight. The knight told her not to bow, and the other knights excitedly accepted Lady Lena's offer, commenting that she was worth 100 men. She thanked them, apologizing as well for she was a bother. But the knight thanked her instead and told her not to push herself. She then asked everyone there if they knew someone named Lloyd. As Lloyd and his companions crouched behind some bushes near a house, Lloyd mentioned that he was sure they were close and that there was a demon up ahead. One of his companions was shocked at the mention of a demon. Demons were people who lived in the Dark Realm during a time when it was ruled by a being called the Demon King. The Dark Realm had waged a war against the Fallen Kingdom, the Forest Empire, and the Holy Kingdom. Even now, demons were banned from entering these three great powers. One of the companions wondered why there was a demon here, while another questioned if it had crawled in from somewhere. Lloyd said that they needed to report it to the knights later. One of his companions was hesitant about entering the hut, considering it too dangerous. Lloyd acknowledged the danger but mentioned that as they got closer to the demon, he felt the same energy emanating from it as he had felt from the Black Stone. He added that it probably had something to do with the monsters that had attacked them earlier. He said that if their true objective was Ishtar, it was reason enough for them to investigate. However, he emphasized that the final decision was up to his companions. The companions discussed the situation and unanimously agreed to proceed. One of them pointed out that since they were targeting Ishtar, they couldn't afford to let the demons get away. The others added that they couldn't overlook a demon, and something had to be done. With their decision made, they began to wonder about how to get into the hut. The demons were in conversation about one of them being able to use earth elemental magic, and another mentioned that it was almost time for the monsters to attack the city, which would launch the next phase of their plan. As they were talking, a candle holder on the table started vibrating and fell off. They noticed and wondered what had caused it, initially thinking it might be an earthquake. However, one of them disagreed and instructed the others to look up. Suddenly, the party, led by Lloyd, broke through the ceiling, revealing that the demons were, in fact, in an underground room beneath the hut. The ceiling broke into pieces, falling and crushing the demons beneath. The demons were caught off guard, and one of them crawled to search for his wand, only to see a foot crushing it. The party entered, standing amidst the ruin, surrounded by rubble and fallen demons. One of the demons stood and wondered if everyone was dead, recognizing a beast person among them. He tried to block a rope launched by Lloyd with his hand, noting that he couldn't chant with all the dust. The rope tightened around the demon's body and mouth, effectively silencing him. Lloyd then secured the demon, telling his companions that he had captured a survivor who could no longer use magic. They asked if he was okay and commented that they were done. Lloyd thanked them, and one of his companions reassured him that they were in it together, emphasizing that having them around was a big help, and he couldn't have done it alone. One of the companions rushed in, urging them to follow him. They entered a room and saw someone locked up, their hands and feet chained, their faces filled with shock as they realized the captive's dire situation. Lloyd, confused, asks himself if she is a beast person, while another comments that she is in pretty bad shape. One of his companions asks him if he can heal her. He tells her that he will try. He stands in front of her with his wand and casts heal. Her wounds start closing up all of a sudden. His companions praise his healing prowess as he tells them that a healer would be more efficient at tightening them. He thinks that that is why he never used healing in the hero's party. He says that it has improved, but is not a big deal. The companions comment that it's amazing to modify the magic and that improvements aren't something that adventurers are normally capable of. He thinks back to how Master was able to create spells, but he chalks it up to him being a weirdo. They notice that her wounds have healed, but that she is not regaining consciousness. Lloyd comments that it's because he only healed her physical wounds. They then move on to interrogating the captured demon. The companion warns that if he tries anything funny, he will be killed. The demon questions how they didn't fall for their trap and how they are still tired and enraged. Lloyd says that it doesn't matter and asks the demon why he is in this country. His companions push him further, and he says it doesn't matter since Ishtar is being attacked by monsters. He adds that among that horde are enhanced monsters that have even defeated the hero's party, and that they will never be able to make it in time. Lloyd questions if the demon used strengthening magic on the demon, and the demon tells him that one of the 4 heavenly kings made them, and Ishtar doesn't stand a chance. The demon shouts that they can't do a thing as he kills himself on the blade of a companion that was lodged next to his throat. Ishtar is already under attack. Lloyd tells them that he will increase the power of his support magic, and they will definitely make it in time. The knights made preparations around the city wall, and one knight asked if they were done. He was told that they had stockpiled arrows away from the city, along with potions, and makeshift moats and bulwarks had been constructed around the city. He questioned whether all these preparations were really necessary. In response, he was told that these measures would buy them some time, but the ultimate outcome depended on when the S-rank party returned. The knight then asked if his comrade was worried, and the other knight replied in the negative, stating that he understood the weight of the situation and that their lives depended on a certain man. Meanwhile, the guards were engaged in conversation about Lloyd, the white mage who had been kicked out of the hero's party. The woman clad in armor ahead of everyone shared her realization that the most important person in the hero's party wasn't the hero, Alan, or the saint, Shaina, but rather the white mage, Lloyd. When the others expressed their surprise, she explained that she hadn't noticed earlier, but Lloyd was the one who fixed Alan's plans, gave the right orders in battle, and covered for their mistakes. She added that support mages often went unnoticed, even those from famous parties, and they had become blinded by the title of hero. She felt that they owed Lloyd for getting as far as they had thanks to his support magic, and realized she had done something terrible to him. As she pondered these thoughts, a woman from the crowd mentioned that she had seen Lloyd talking to the S-rank adventurer, Nizue. The woman eagerly inquired about Lloyd's current whereabouts, to which she was informed that Lloyd had left the city on a request that involved several days of travel and wouldn't be able to return in time. The woman thought that, considering the extent of Lloyd's support magic, he should be able to shorten the travel time. She urged everyone to hear. Everyone in Ashtra remained to protect the city because they couldn't abandon it and wanted to protect those they love. A guard shouted that they were here and the monster horde had arrived. Another guard instructed the men to take their positions. The monster stood on the other side of the moat, while the infantry lined up closely to the moat in small files. The mages assembled in a large group on one side, and the archers gathered in another large group on the opposite side. The headquarters tower and B-rank mages were stationed on the wall overlooking the scene. The archers were given the first order to shoot, and they unleashed a fury of arrows, raining them down on the monsters and piercing them, some even hitting their mouths. Next, the shield bearers were ordered to form up as the monsters approached, preparing to defend against the impending attack. Lloyd asked, "Did we make it?" and inquired about Silica's condition. Silica replied that she could still keep going. Lloyd thought about how she had already recovered, which was understandable as she was an S-rank adventurer. His companions asked him what they should do next. Lloyd hesitated for a moment, considering his role in giving orders. He remembered his time with the hero's party when he wasn't allowed to speak, and he realized he needed to be careful. One of his companions noted that Lloyd was good at what he was saying and that he was knowledgeable. Another added that their support mage used to have that role, but they weren't as skilled in that regard. They asked Lloyd if they could count on him from now on, and he assured them that he had it under control. Lloyd urged them to hurry and join the knights while the flames were still holding the monsters at bay. He also expressed his need to find out the current situation. As the party reached the scene, they noted that things looked bad, and the city's defenses had already been breached. Silica warned them to watch their step as they prepared to face the dire situation ahead. They leaped over the moat, and Lloyd asked if the moat had been able to slow the monster's advance. One of his companions inquired if everyone was alright and added that they would have been in dire straits without the white mage Lloyd's enhancement magic. The guards asked if it was the S-rank adventurers and Lloyd, and one of them inquired about the injured beast person. Lloyd explained that she was injured and requested that they please take care of her. His companions volunteered to assist while Lloyd considered what to do next and instructed the guards to inform them of their needs once he made a decision. Lloyd asked the guards to provide him with information on the available resources, supplies, and how many were still able to fight. He then inquired about Alan's whereabouts, given that this was an emergency request and he should have been present. The knight informed him that the hero was not present and explained that there had been a disagreement at the Adventurers Guild. Alan had left and was now at his residence. Lloyd couldn't help but reflect on how, over a disagreement, the hero had decided not to defend the city. He recalled Alan's words about becoming the strongest hero and how there was nothing to fear as long as he was there. Lloyd wondered if Alan truly understood how many lives were at stake in the current situation. The knight informed Lloyd that they were at their limits, and that now all they could do was depend on the S-rank adventurers and Sir Lloyd himself. Lloyd wondered aloud why they would depend on him, expressing surprise that they looked to him for help. The knight explained that they had heard he was an amazing person. Lloyd brushed off the comment and asked for information on the current situation. Meanwhile, another knight carefully laid down the injured beast person. As she started to wake, she asked where she was. The guard assured her that she shouldn't try to get up and asked if she was all right. She woke up with a shocked expression and mentioned that she remembered what had happened to them. Lloyd noted that she was awake, and the guard told him that she was still a bit confused. Lloyd inquired about what she meant by them and if she had other companions. She replied that she had no other companions and clarified that by them, she meant the monsters. She explained that the monsters were being controlled by magic. Lloyd proclaimed that he knew she was the source of the magic, but she quickly denied it, stating that they were merely being manipulated. Lloyd urged her to calm down and asked about her magic, showing little interest in it. He emphasized that they didn't have time to waste and that the monster's assault would begin soon. He asks her what her name is, and she says Cure. She tells Kuriha that both monsters and demons will die if this continues. He asks if she is able to control the monsters, and she says she can, but she was forced to do it by the demons who captured her. She says that she was taught by her mother that monsters shouldn't be controlled, and she didn't want this to happen. Lloyd thinks that if there's magic in this world, then it is dangerous in the wrong hands. He further asks if there is something she can do about the monsters. She says she can, but her mana is already depleted. Lloyd suggests supplementing his mana to boost her magic. She says even if she had the mana, controlling so many at once is not easy. She says that she will give it a shot because otherwise she won't be able to save them. Lloyd notes that she really cares about the monsters. He offers her a mana potion, and she drinks it. She wonders that she said she could do it, but is not sure just how many she can save. Lloyd preps his staff, and she wonders what this is. He tells her that he has casted reduced mana use and enhanced magic on her many times, matching the nature of her mana. He also adds that he will transfer some of his mana. He notes that it's not much but tells her to put it to good use. He asks her if it will be enough, and she tells him that she will be fine with all of this. She asks Lloyd who he is, and he tells her that he's not anyone fishy, to which she says she didn't mean that. She's just never received such great support magic. He tells her to ask the monsters to move into the forest. She stands on the wooden tower and prepares. She starts singing, and Lloyd notes that he's never heard her language before. Her singing starts to reverberate from the forest, and the monsters, as they hear her singing, start to go back into the forest. She faints, but before she can fall, Lloyd catches her and asks if she's alright. She tells him that she is. She tells Lloyd that he's amazing and that he used support magic like that so easily. He tells her that it's not a big deal and that what she did was, in fact, amazing. He adds that the monsters decided to go back. She tells him that she just convinced them to turn around. Convinced? He asks. She reveals that her magic isn't about controlling the monsters, but rather about connecting with them. She adds that communication is one of its effects, but it can be used to manipulate. She was able to convince most of them, but her words didn't reach the golems, who started marching toward the city. She adds that it felt like something was getting in the way. Lloyd thinks back to the demon who told him about the enhanced monsters who were able to take out the hero's party. He notes that it must be the demon's ace. He races away and asks Kureha to rest. She asks where he's going, and as he gulps down a mana potion, he tells her that he has things to do. The knights rejoiced at there being only a few monsters left. They surrounded them and started attacking. The golems were very powerful and with a single swipe managed to throw a knight into a bunch of rocks. Another knight asked what that thing was. They questioned if it was really a golem and said that it was too strong. They asked how they could fight them and added that it seemed impossible. One of Lloyd's companions noted that their morale was dropping and it was bad. Lloyd asked if she was alright, and she said that she was, but those golems were too strong. She mentioned that the S ranks could take them down if they were alone, but asked what they should do now. He told her that he would cast strengthening magic on everyone. She asked, noting that there were more than 50 people there, if he could even do this. He said that he couldn't do it all at once and couldn't have many effects active, but he could at least cast one type of enhancement on everyone. He added that he had already confirmed everyone's position on the ground. He cast body strengthening on the shield breakers, and for the magic unit, he cast enhanced magic power. After casting them, Lloyd fell to his knees. He was asked if he was alright, and he said that he was done casting but couldn't move, adding that it couldn't last for long. They noted that Lloyd had cast amazing magic on everyone. They added that his magic would give them the strength of 100 so everyone could fight. They noted that their bodies felt lighter. The enemy might be tough, but they weren't going to give up. They had Lloyd on their side, so they were determined to win, as Uni said. Uni started attacking the golems, and with a swing of her sword, she split one of the golems in half. One of the companions urged them to aim for the heads. They commanded the knights to protect them and then ordered the mages to attack. The companions noted that their attacks were working amazingly and wondered if it was really just the strengthening magic. They felt that it wasn't just magic and that they didn't feel like themselves. Lady Lena charged and the knights followed her. They told them not to fall behind and to win this. Lena noted that she knew that Lloyd was responsible for this, but she had misjudged him, yet he was still supporting her, which was why he had to win. She decided to apologize to Lloyd. Uni smashed through the last golem, proclaiming that it was the last one. It cracked and crumbled, splitting in two. She asked if it meant they had won and that Ishtar was saved. They all rejoiced at saving Ishtar and managing to survive. Lloyd proclaimed that it was over as he fainted. Lloyd woke up in a bed and wondered if he was in Ishtar. Uni entered and said, "You're awake." She asked him how he was feeling. He told her that he was fully recovered and quickly asked about everyone's safety. She assured him that everyone was safe and grateful for what he had done. She asked if he could walk and invited him to come with her. He asked what was going on, and she told him to just come with her and open the door. He cautiously opened the door to the streets lined with Ishtar's citizens. They all smiled at him, and in shock he slammed the door. Uni asked why he closed the door and told him to go out there. She insisted that he would understand once he was out there, but he attempted to sneak out of the window. She asked him what he was doing, and he explained that he had thought of sneaking out the window because there were too many people out there. She shouted, "No," and urged him to open the door. Reluctantly, he opened the door, revealing the courtyard full of citizens. He greeted them, bowed, and to his surprise, they called him their savior. In unison, the citizens proclaimed Lloyd the White Mage, the hero of Ishtar. He was shocked by the title and questioned what it meant. As he walked through the courtyard, they continued to refer to him as their savior and hero of Ishtar. Meanwhile, Alan stood in his residence with clenched fists, wondering why they were calling Lloyd a hero. One of his companions asked if they wouldn't be in big trouble if this continued and noted that the knights hadn't come to apologize. Alan expressed that he understood the situation. The other companion added that since they hadn't participated in the emergency request, Alan might be stripped of his title as the hero. She asked if he truly understood, and he proclaimed that he did. They stood there confused and dazed, looking at him, and asked what they should do now. The companions added that they would be run out of town. Alan told Lulu and Shina that they were leaving. They were confused, and he urged them to pack their bags quickly. Lulu and Shina told him that it seemed too hasty. Angrily, Alan looked at Lulu and Shina and stated that they realized Lloyd was being treated as a hero by the city. He was sure that Lloyd had somehow tricked the city, and he added that it was also their fault for being fooled. He refused to stay in Ishtar and declared that they would leave tonight. Alone and away from Alan, Shina asked Lulu what she thought. With a hint of confusion, Lulu said that she would follow Alan. She added that they were probably not welcome in the city anymore, so it was better to stick with Alan. Lulu then asked Shina for her opinion, and she agreed, saying that she would follow Alan. However, she glanced at his chair as Lulu reassured her that everything would be fine, and Alan could handle anything because he was the hero. Outside in the city, celebrations were in full swing as Lloyd sat by a fountain, lost in thought, pondering how all of this had happened. While he was lost in thought, a citizen called out to him and thanked him for everything. They offered him a drink, and he tried to refuse, but the citizen insisted, saying that Lloyd was the guest of honor and shouldn't be shy. Uni and Dragus approached him, calling out to him and asking if he was having fun. Lloyd replied that he was not and asked what the feast was all about. Upon hearing this, Uni and Dragus were shocked and confused. They told him that he was here and still didn't know. Dragus said that he was Ishtar's hero. Lloyd questioned, "A hero? Me?" He expressed doubt, saying that he didn't think he deserved to be called a hero after providing just a little support. Uni stopped him and told him to have a little more faith in himself. Another companion added that he should have a better opinion of himself, and a third encouraged him to be prouder of himself. They all urged him to have more faith in himself, and Uni emphasized that it was exactly what they had been telling him. They told him to enjoy himself as the city's guest of honor tonight, and Lloyd said that he understood and would try to enjoy himself the best he could. Rena called out to Lloyd and asked if he had a moment. He was a little shocked to see Rena and listened as she filled him in on what happened after he left, telling him about every detail. She apologized and bowed down to him. Lloyd was confused and shocked by her apology, so he asked her why she was apologizing. She explained that she never realized how much he had helped them and that she had said cruel things to him, which had contributed to him getting kicked out of the hero's party. She further added that it was thanks to Lloyd that they were able to defend the city. She understood if he didn't want to accept her apology. Lloyd told Rena to raise her head and stated that the only thing he had done was support everyone. He added that the ones who had protected the city were Uni's party and all the brave knights and adventurers who had put their lives on the line. He finished by saying that he had been kicked out because he wasn't good enough. The crowd overheard him shouting about how humble he was and that he was a real inspiration. They chanted his name, and one of his companions told him that they had gotten him drinks. He thanked the companion for getting him out of that situation and asked about Kuria, the beast person. The companion informed him that she had heard the knights were treating her, but she was still quite weak. He wondered how she was able to wield magic that allowed her to communicate with monsters. Sitting at a table, Uni frowned and asked, "You're frowning again." She reminded him that she had told him to have fun today. He apologized and asked her if she was drunk. She replied that she could still keep going. A companion suggested stopping her, and Dragus added that they didn't have anything to do tomorrow, so it was fine. They asked if that was what he was worried about. A man in a hood, perched atop a roof, looked at Lloyd and remarked that he seemed much happier now than when he was in the hero's party. He added that he needed to let Miss Merlin know about this as well. The hooded man finally arrived, exclaiming that the place was really far away. As he reached the hut, he knocked on the door and asked if anyone was inside. However, the door was blasted forward with an explosion on the other side. A man proclaimed that it was really close inside in relief as he patted away the dust from his clothes. Will mentioned that it could have killed him. A woman emerged from the hut, and it turned out to be Miss Merlin. She said she had sensed something suspicious and asked if it was Will. He confirmed it had been a while since they had seen each other. Miss Merlin commented that he was amazing as usual and asked how he was unscathed. Will replied that it was a trade secret. Will noticed wine bottles and remarked that she was always like this when she had been drinking. Miss Merlin added that it had nothing to do with Will and mentioned that Lloyd didn't like alcohol. She also revealed that she knew Lloyd didn't like Will as she shot another blast in Will's direction. He asked if she was trying to kill him, and she warned him to stop hitting her, or she would burn everything down with her biggest spell. Will called Miss Merlin a drunk. Lily and Tor showed up and told Will to cut it out. Lily asked Merlin if she wanted her to turn all her booze into water again, but Merlin protested, saying anything but that. Tor stated that if Will was here, it must mean that those guys were up to something. He suggested they talk in Merlin's hut. Inside the hut, Will explained that the demons had manipulated some monsters with the hope of crushing Ishtar's hero. To achieve this, they had abducted the Empire's second hero. Tor was shocked and proclaimed that he didn't know the Empire's second princess was kidnapped, adding that everything about her should have been closely guarded by the Empire. Will explained that the Empire had kept it under wraps, as revealing that the demons were able to breach their security would erode the Empire's trust among its people and neighbors. Tor agreed, and Lily added that it would cause a huge incident if information about the second princess were to leak. Lily then asked Will how he knew about the abduction. He told them that he no longer worked as an alchemist and now worked as an information broker, among other things. He added that he was now known as the Phantom Alchemist. Lily commented that, in that sense, they were all alike. The legendary party will express that he was honored to be there. Lily remarked that she didn't remember calling themselves legendary. They discussed the reason why the demons had suddenly begun making moves. Will suggested two possibilities. Firstly, that a new demon king had been born, and secondly, that there had been the revival of the demon king. Lily stood up, shouting that the demon king had been utterly defeated, and there was no way he could be revived. She asked if he had been revived, then what was the sacrifice for? Tor calmed her down, telling her it was only speculation. Will agreed, saying it was just one of the possibilities. Lily composed herself and apologized, agreeing with Will and Tor. Will then informed them that the demon's plan had been halted thanks to Lloyd. Hearing Lloyd's name, Merlin asked if he was in Ishtar, as he had left home suddenly, and she was wondering what he was up to. She asked how he was doing and if he was well. Merlin was taken aback when she learned that Lloyd had been kicked out of the heroes' party and was now part of an S-rank party. Lily added that she couldn't believe he got kicked out and further mentioned that Lloyd was a user of support magic that the mage Merlin could barely surpass even when using support items. Merlin was stunned and said that she couldn't believe Lloyd could do that. He further added that he had never met or spoken directly to Lloyd, resulting in Tor saying that they have. Will continued saying that Lloyd could do with being a bit more confident. He mentioned that on top of being too serious, Lloyd didn't realize how skilled he was and might end up rubbing some people the wrong way. Lily said that she didn't want Lloyd to turn out like her. She explained that she was too worried that he would become overconfident like her and that she had lost a friend because of it. She emphasized that he shouldn't be like her. Tor reminded them that it was all in the past, and dwelling on sadness and depression wouldn't bring back the dead. He concluded by saying that all they could do now was to protect the future they had sacrificed themselves for. Will agreed, saying, "You're right. Let's discuss what we're going to do." Will suggested launching a counterattack on the capital of the Empire of Cruz. The majority of the residents there were beast people, and the city where the royal family resided was said to be the most heavily guarded place in the empire. Meanwhile, a man with his face covered walked into the main gate of the castle. A guard intervened, stopping him and asking where he was going at this time. The man kept walking, and the guard lifted the man's head, revealing that he was one of the 5 captains of the Imperial Army, Lord Revide. He introduced himself, and when the guard realized who he was, he apologized for his insolence. Lord Revide told them he was in a good mood because he had received some good news. Lord Revide is in the forest and calls out, asking if someone is there. He sees a demon summon and bows down to him, mentioning that he's been waiting. He calls the demon Lord Revide, but the demon corrects him, and his appearance changes. He is Lord Gist, who mentions that the beast person form is claustrophobic. Lord Gist asks the demon how the plan went, referring to their plan to kill the hero. The demon hesitates but eventually says that it failed. Lord Gist is shocked and asks if he misheard, but the demon repeats that the plan failed. A tense silence falls, followed by Lord Gist starting to laugh hysterically. The demon nervously joins in. However, Lord Gist suddenly punches the demon in the back, drawing blood and leaving him face down. Lord Gist expresses his frustration, saying he worked hard to gain the Emperor's trust by pretending to be a beast person. He mentions that if the plan had succeeded, it would have improved his position among the 4 heavenly kings. He demands to know how the plan failed and who got in his way. He walks away, leaving footprints in blood, and vows to find and kill the one who thwarted his plans. Meanwhile, Uni, Lloyd, and the rest of their party arrive at the Lord's mansion, wondering why they were called suddenly. They are greeted by someone they weren't expecting, Kureha. However, she reveals that she is not Kureha, but Kureha, the Empire's second princess. The adventurers arrive at the mayor's mansion and are surprised to learn about the existence of a second princess. As she approaches the door, she informs them that the Lord is waiting to meet them and will provide further information. Lord Lucas greets them and introduces himself, inquiring if they are the adventurer party that saved Princess Ishtar. Silica comments on how Lord Abel looks much younger than his age of 45, to which he attributes his youthful appearance to regular exercise and physical training. Sheena suggests that exercise might not be the only reason, hinting at possible magical methods for beautification. Lord Abel finds this amusing and starts laughing, mentioning that Lloyd knows what she means. The second princess interrupts, urging Lord Abel to focus on the main topic, which he agrees with. He proceeds to explain that, as the adventurers might have already heard, the girl standing beside them is the Empire's second princess, Hyria Resulst. He reveals that this information is known only to a select few, as the Empire's second princess was abducted approximately a year ago. Sheena is surprised by this revelation and questions why the information wasn't made public. Lloyd is curious and asks if, considering he had witnessed the princess's magic, the Lord would like to know his thoughts on it. He reflects on how he found her magic both amazing and terrifying at the same time. The Lord explains that her magic is indeed special, which is why the Empire had kept her under strict guard. He goes on to reveal that their security was breached when she was abducted by demons, and to avoid causing panic, the information was kept secret. The Empire had been desperately searching for her, and she was eventually rescued by their group. The Lord expresses his gratitude to them. He then shares his request with them personally, explaining that it's a particularly difficult one. He wants them to escort Princess Hyria to the imperial capital. This unexpected request catches them off guard, and they all express their surprise and ask for clarification. Lloyd reflects on how he initially tried to decline the request, but the Lord insisted, leaving them with no choice but to accept. Later, as Lloyd walks through the village, Sheena spots him and asks where the others are. She explains that they decided it would be troublesome if too many people went at once, so they plan to go another day. They hear Crumb nearby, and she recognizes Yui. Sheena comments on how it's been a while since they last saw each other. Crumb turns to Lloyd, inquiring if that is his name. Crumb tells them they shouldn't just stand there to chat, and they should instead come on in. They all catch her up on all the things that had happened while she was away. Lloyd asks Crumb if her little sister is doing all right and mentions that he had heard she was sick. She tells him that she isn't exactly sick and that it's more like she had been cursed. He tells them that her sister is Sylvie, and they used to be an adventuring pair. She tells them how she was injured while they were doing a request, and it was most likely she had been cursed then. Sheena asks Crumb if she knows what kind of monster had inflicted the curse, and she says she does. She tells them that her symptoms were well, and it would be faster if they just showed her. They think about how it must be necromancy or dark magic, but still, there were many monsters that could inflict such a powerful curse. They open the door to Sylvie's room, and Lloyd gets a strong scent of something dark. He starts wondering if this was some sort of creepy-feeling magic. Crumb tells them that this is what Sylvie's curse looks like. She takes off her blanket and reveals that her feet and hands have turned black, and it is spreading slowly. Crumb tells them that she is crystallizing, that her mana is uncontrolled and slowly turning her body to crystal. Magic crystals were magic crystals that had been crystallized mana and could rarely be mined in caves. Lloyd thinks about how he had never heard of a body turning into a magic crystal before. She continues by telling them that siphoning off her mana slows down the progress, but it's only a matter of time before she fully turns into a crystal. Lloyd goes deep into thought before asking Crumb if he could try something on Sylvie. He takes out a wand, and Crumb decides that she will let him try something. But she had let skilled healers see her. She had tried high-ranking healing magic, and what could a white mage possibly do? Sheena tells Crumb to have faith in Lloyd, telling her that he will be able to do something and that she should trust him. He steps toward the bed and starts to transfer mana and a reversal. As he does this, he becomes weak and starts stumbling. The rest ask if he is alright and ask him what he did. He tells them that he reversed the transfer of mana, that if mana transfer has the ability to recombine their mana, so he had figured that it was also possible to absorb it instead. Crumb is surprised that he decided to recombine the magic. Lloyd tells them that it worked, but that it is difficult to control. He tells them that he can't absorb any more, or he will crystallize himself as he starts using a healing spell. Crumb tells him that his heal spell is incredibly insufficient and poorly designed, but he says that he can use it to heal Sylvie using all the mana he had just absorbed, and Crumb feels like he is making it all sound too easy. What she didn't know was that he had used his own custom magic, and he had also used 2 different spells at the same time. Not only that, but he also had the physical strength and mental fortitude to handle all the mana flowing through him. Crumb tells him that that is not something humans can normally do or are even capable of. Crumb looks down at her sister and sees that her crystallized arm is healing slowly. Lloyd points to her and asks if this was where she was injured, and she asks him how he knew, and that yes, it was. He says that he hadn't noticed it before due to the crystallization, but that there is something there. He grabs a knife and tells Crumb that he might have to get a little bit rough. He makes a small incision and a stone slides out. He thinks it looks like a red magic stone. Sheena asks why that would even be in her, and she begins to wake up looking for Crumb. Crumb runs over to her and thanks Lloyd. She tells them that once Sylvie recovers her strength, she thinks they will go back to adventuring. He sees them off and thanks Lloyd again. She asks him if he is having fun with you and the rest of them, and he says he is. She tells him that she is leaving the party in his hands and to take care of them. He starts to look at the stone as Sheena shouts out for him. He thinks that this stone is similar to the stone back at the farm. They trudge through the forest and join the others. Lord Abel thanks all of them for willingly accepting the request. He repeats to them the mission once again, saying that they have to escort the princess to the imperial capital. He tells them that Korea's clothes will block magic, which means that she should be hidden from scrying magic. The princess tells them to please watch over her, that she would be happy if they would be informal with her and call her Korea. Sheena tells her joyfully that they will take care of her. Korea thanks them once again. Crumb talks about how that is just how Sheena was, and they all tell Korea not to worry and that they will watch over her. They all head over to the imperial capital as Lord Abel watches, thinking that Merlin had gotten the great disciple. In the imperial land, the frontier, a man sits at a dining table. Opposite him stands a guard named Grist. The man asks Grist if the army belonged to the demon lord or one of the 4 heavenly kings. He inquires if Grist seeks his cooperation, to which Grist responds affirmatively. The man introduces himself as Michael, the former advisor to the demon king. Grist acknowledges Michael's skills but questions whether he can be trusted beyond that. Michael asks if Grist expects trust from someone who once betrayed the previous demon king. Grist concedes the point and states that as long as he receives payment, it's acceptable. Grist continues by mentioning that he doesn't believe the second princess will remain in Ishtar, especially after the recent monster attack on the city. Michael inquires if Grist is waiting for her return to the Empire. Grist clarifies that he is not, as her first destination is likely to be the royal capital, which is closer to the Empire. He reveals that the Emperor suspects a traitor within his ranks, with the 5th Captain, River, being a prime suspect. Grist explains that until the situation is resolved, they will hide in the royal capital, Sylphs, where the Hero of Destruction and the Hero of Thunder are located. He suggests that they wait in a village near the capital and ambush them there. Michael, somewhat impressed, remarks that he had always considered Grist a meathead but acknowledges his intelligence. He asks if Grist is finished, to which Grist responds that he has heard all he needed to hear. Grist informs Michael that they will meet later and that he will be there. Michael, along with the meal he was eating, both turn into black sand and disappear. Seeing this, Grist sighs and comments that Michael lives up to his reputation. Meanwhile, the adventurers continue their journey. Lloyd informs them that there is a small city further ahead where they can rest. Karoo points out that they have been walking for 10 days and the capital is still quite a distance away. Duggett adds that they are taking the longer route for safety. Sheena calls out to Korea and tells her that the next town is known for its hot springs. Excited by this news, Korea and Sheena both squeal in delight. Karoo mentions how Yu seems to be less cautious, and Lloyd suggests that Yu might also be showing her concern. Sheena argues that Korea will exhaust herself if they are constantly on alert, and that they should allow her to enjoy herself. Silica reminds them that Korea mentioned she couldn't go out often, highlighting the importance of her having some fun. Lloyd informs them that he hasn't detected any threats using his detection magic so far. Duggett expresses concern about Lloyd's frequent use of magic and asks if he's okay with that much mana consumption. Lloyd explains that he has actually developed a new detection magic recently. His original detection magic involved filling an area with an invisible fog, within which he could detect anything with mana. They finally understand the mechanics of his magic. Lloyd continues, saying that he has improved it. Now it creates ripples at certain intervals, and these ripples help him detect things as they spread out. He admits that he might not be able to tell exactly what those things are, but the new method consumes less mana. Duggett remarks that in a non-combat situation like their current one, just knowing if there's anything out there is sufficient. Lloyd expresses regret, thinking he should have realized these improvements earlier. Sheena points out that improving magic isn't as simple as having an idea, and Lloyd agrees. Ruru adds that they all learned to use storage magic during their journey, and each of them has managed to store their own weapons at the very least. Sheena remarks that what Ruru said is true, and Yu still hasn't used it enough. When Yu asks what they're talking about, Ruru dismisses it as nothing. Sheena suggests that they head to the hot springs now that they've arrived and need to put their luggage away. Ruru comments on how carefree Sheena is, and Lloyd agrees. The girls decide to go in first and instruct the boys to keep watch. As Lloyd wanders around, he thinks about how this place is pretty secluded and grimy. He sighs, not wanting to stay there for too long. Meanwhile, the girls are delighted by the situation, feeling like they have the hot springs all to themselves because there's no one else around. They wonder if it's because they're there at an odd hour. Kiriya peeks out from behind a stone, and Sheena and Silica invite her to join them. They ask her what's wrong when she hesitates. Kiriya explains that she was held captive for a long time and is malnourished, so she didn't want to show her body to others. Sheena reassures her, saying it's perfectly fine and doesn't bother them. Kiriya mentions that the journey has started to fill her out, and Silica adds that it's because Yu has them trying all sorts of things. She advises Yu to take better care of her body. Kiriya acknowledges that her chest has probably gotten bigger overall. Sheena tells Silica that they need to have some weight to their attacks to make them heavier. She then asks Kiriya if she thought she was too fat, explaining that she had been feeling self-conscious. Kiriya turns around, and the others inquire about what's wrong. She points to the wall and asks if they can hear something coming from one of the walls. They all hear the sound again, and Sheena decides to go check it out. Meanwhile, Lloyd also hears the commotion and notices that it sounds like Yu is being attacked. He uses his detection magic and realizes that the signature doesn't belong to a demon. There's another human involved. He contemplates whether this person has sided with the demons. Lloyd starts to panic, unsure of what he should do. He can't simply barge in, but he also can't ignore the situation in case it's an emergency. He thinks about the possibility of it turning out like last time. Ultimately, he decides to support Yu with strength magic for now. In the midst of it all, Yu is shown punching the man, causing him to shoot out of the wall and past Lloyd. She reflects on the fact that she didn't hit him that hard. Yu asks Lloyd why he was there, and he explains that he heard a scream while he was on guard duty. Concerned, he asks if everyone is alright, but they instruct him to turn around. Lloyd, still worried about their well-being, complies and asks if they are okay. Yu assures him that it was just a peeping Tom and urges him to leave. Sheena sighs in frustration, lamenting the bad luck of encountering a peeping Tom just when they found a hot spring and how Lloyd had inadvertently witnessed everything. Lloyd apologizes, and Silica tells him she doesn't blame him but needs to ask him something. She inquires about whether there is any magic that can enhance or modify memories. Lloyd replies that he doesn't know of any magic like that and finds the idea horrifying. Ruru thinks about wanting to erase Lloyd's memory of what he saw, and Sheena agrees, saying that she doesn't believe he did it on purpose. She believes that if Lloyd wanted to peek, he could have done so without getting caught. Lloyd expresses his disbelief that they don't trust him. They then shift their focus to discussing their plans for the next day. Duggett points out the strangeness of not encountering any demons so far, and Sheena agrees, finding it unusual. Lloyd suggests taking precautions to ensure they don't encounter any demons. Sheena acknowledges that Lloyd is already keeping constant watch with his detection magic and believes he is doing everything he can. Lloyd reflects that the problem isn't that he's doing all he can, rather, it's a problem because doing his best isn't sufficient. He believes that merely giving it his all won't be enough. He addresses everyone and asks if they can stay in their current location for a couple of days. They inquire if he has something in mind, and he confirms that he does but won't force them into it. Sheena suggests that for the next 3 days, they stay there and make their own preparations. Duggett wants to acquire some gear, Ruru wants to practice her magic, and Sheena plans to maintain her bow and arrow. Sheena also mentions that she will guard Kiriya, who expresses her gratitude. They all agree to go sightseeing together. Lloyd thinks that in order to protect Kiriya, he must become even stronger by fighting alongside them. Michael elsewhere looks at 4 vials and wonders if they will be sufficient. He expresses his reluctance to face one of the 4 heavenly kings alone if he can avoid it, and notes that it's almost time to set his plans in motion. Duggett is seen searching around the town, thinking about how the equipment store he just visited had nothing interesting. He spots Sheena and Kiriya shopping nearby and asks if they are shopping too. They inquire if he is also shopping, and he explains that he was planning to get a new shield but hadn't managed to find one yet. Sheena comments on how his current shield looks pretty worn. Duggett reflects on how he can't take Lloyd's support magic for granted and that he would like to contribute something as well. However, he has already visited all the equipment stores on the map. Kiriya suggests trying a backstreet equipment store they had just come across. They reach the shop, noting how it looks quite small and run down. Duggett thinks it's not on the map but decides to give it a chance. He enters the shop and finds it empty. He calls out for the owner when he notices some shields and hears someone call out from behind him. The person asks if he's one of the Lord's henchmen, and Duggett clarifies that he just wanted to look at some equipment. The man says he understands that Duggett is a customer and walks away. Duggett asks if he wanted him to browse unsupervised and that still the equipment in the store was really good, especially the ones on display. He wonders why his shop isn't doing that well. He hears something and turns around to see 4 bulky men who call out to the old man saying they are coming in. He looks at Duggett and laughs, saying that he can't believe the man has a customer. He asks Duggett what the hell he was doing there and if he was actually there to buy something. Duggett asks them what if that is what he is doing. They all begin to laugh at him, wondering if he is being for real and that he had come there to shop. They ask him what kind of a low-ranked adventurer he was. The old man comes out frustrated that the men are back again. He says that he has already told them that he has no equipment to sell to them, nor does he have any intention of leaving. They say that he looks well, and the old man says that his business is dying due to them, and they say he should be thanking them. Duggett understands that the old man is being bullied. He asks them if they are land sharks, and they say they are not. They ask him to listen and be amazed. They tell him that they are ranked adventurers and that this town everybody knew of them. He asks if they were famous and says that a ranked adventurer should be acting like this. He says that someone of Duggett's rank wouldn't understand. He says that once they get to his level, they will realize there's a lot to deal with. They tell him that someone like him that came to a shop like this definitely wouldn't understand, and that he doesn't have any equipment, that he will be stuck forever in the low ranks. He tells them to shut up and listen to him. The old man shouts at the boys, asking if whichever one of his competitors they took the request from hadn't been ashamed. Duggett realized that they had taken on a dark request. Dark requests are requests that don't go through the Adventurers Guild, that they're usually made directly by individuals or through a dark guild, that the Adventurers Guild is responsible for screening out requests for murders, thefts, or the like. Requests that fail to pass that screen are called dark requests are prohibited by all countries. Duggett asks the owner why he doesn't complain to the guild. He says that he had and that they had said they had no proof. He says that this case is treated as a bad adventurer harassing a shop owner, that the guild must have their hands full and wonders why they are going so far. The man says that it's probably because of that one weapon that he has. Duggett questions what weapon and the men start asking what they are whispering about, and he tells the man to hurry up and sell it to them, to sell them the piece of the lioness's legacy. He says that he has told them multiple times that he won't sell it to them. He says he will only sell it to someone who could wield it properly. The ranked adventurers say that they will no have to resort to violence and walk towards them. Duggett questions if they can even be called adventurers anymore. They punch him, saying that he shouldn't get cocky. They begin to fight, and the adventurer says that they shouldn't because he doesn't have a weapon, and Duggett opens his storage and takes out his shield and begins to beat them up. They are all shocked as to where it came from. They realize that Duggett is strong and ask how is just a low-ranked adventurer. He tells them that he is actually an S-ranked adventurer. They are all shocked and ask him why he didn't say so before. He says that it's quite lame to brag about yourself. Duggett says he doesn't believe this as they all begin to flee the shop. The owner thinks that that may settle it for now. Duggett say that he has made up his mind. The owner tells him to come with him as he has something for Duggett. Sheena tells Korea that they should head back to the inn and rest, and she agrees. They come back and find Lloyd deep in thought. They tell him that he looks too stressed and why he doesn't take a short break. They ask him how he is doing, and he says that he has mainly been thinking about how to improve his support magic and that he has been drawing a blank. Korea apologizes to him, saying that she wishes she could help. They tell him that she has nothing to apologize for, and Sheena asks if the song for controlling monsters was forbidden. Korea says it is. She tells them that she can't use any magic right now because of the stamina recovery potion's side effects. Sheena asks if it was made by the same alchemist who made the anti-detection clothes that she was wearing. Sheena asks Lloyd why he would think of something other than support magic. He says he also gave that some though, but that compared to a wizard like Silica, his attack was a matchstick to the wildfire, and that Silica was a wildfire. That her skills were absolutely amazing, and how she is a genius. We see Silica thinking that she should be alright in this certain spot. She thinks about how she really loves nature, and that if Lloyd hadn't been there during the last request. She thinks she needs to get stronger, and she opens her storage. She takes out her wand and concentrates and tries to form an image. To compress the magic, then donating it, and she lights a small explosion. She thinks about how she knew the burst spell wouldn't be easy to master, but that she had expected to fail a few times, and she tries one more time. She continues to try over and over again. Back in the inn, Sheena thinks about how Silica really is a genius, and that she was known as a genius child prodigy since she was little, that she had always been really talented. She says that that is not what makes her great, but that she never gives up. No matter how many times she fails, she keeps on trying, and that she works harder than anyone else. Back in the field, Silica is able to finally cause a huge impact, and she is happy when it finally works. A huge explosion goes off, and she thinks about how she has done it again, and starts wondering why she is so clumsy. She thinks about how she tries to be careful in front of everyone. She looks down and realizes that her clothes are soaked and that she should go back. Lloyd and Duggett discuss how they heard a strange explosion coming from inside the forest, and Duggett says he is just imagining things, that he goes to the forest every day and that the only thing up ahead was a pond and that there was nothing to explode. They head up and see that the pond is gone and that there is a huge hole in the ground. They think that there must be a witch living there. Back at the end, Silica feels like she has a cold, and Ruru thinks about how she is stumped. Ruru says that he had gotten new bow and arrow, but wonders what she should do now. She thinks about how the common way was to train more, but wonders if that is really good enough. She wonders if only there was a promising prospect. She bumps into a kid and asks him if he is okay, and he apologizes, and she says it's okay considering she wasn't paying attention either. The boy asks her if she is an adventurer, and she says she is, and that she is still beginner, and that she has only been doing it for a year. He says that she is no longer a beginner, she has been doing it for a year. She thinks about how he hasn't given up despite being stuck at the lowest rank for a year, and asks about her. She says she is also an adventurer, and she says that she guesses it looks like one because she uses strange, and he asks if she would be willing to team up with him. This shocks Ruru. He gets to a building, thinks about how this is the guild in this city, and how she accepted the invitation because she wanted to test her new bow. He asks if she is an archer, and she says yes. He asks if she is normally doing stuff by herself, and that he thinks so long is not suitable for a beginner archer. There are 3 men standing to side gossiping. The boy apologizes and says that he probably doesn't want to team up with someone like him. Ruru say that he will take the request, and the others encourage her. She asks if something happened, and they say that the A-ranked party was famous in the city, and that they are apparently involved in some dark requests. He tells her that the adventurer who brought them to justice was a very powerful shield master. Ruru thinks about how there is sudden appearance from an E-ranked adventurer. They tell her that there is also a rumor that you can hear explosion in the forest. They say that according to the rumors, there was a blue-haired with wielding a staff or something. Ruru thinks this sound familiar. They all wonder who it was, and Ruru thinks she can't stay there for too long, and that he would like to take the quest. The woman asks her if she can give her adventurer's plate, and Ruru tells her to be quiet. She tells her that she wants to take a quest with the small boy over there. She asks if he will be with Lin, and she asks if the woman knows him, and she says she does, that even though he is just 13 years old, he is doing his best taking a quest every day for the sake of his parents. Ruru thinks about how that meant that he had become an adventurer at the age of 12, and that Sheena had also become one at that age. Ruru thinks about how that is amazing, and she tells Ruru that she thinks it's amazing that he was reaching S rank at such a young age. She tells him that if he is going within, she should be taking a D rank request, that both of them are bow users and that it's not balanced. Ruru agrees and says that she understands. She shows Ruru 1, and we are taken back to Lloyd, who is thinking about how he had ended up training his support magic, but that he had maximized the potential of all the support magic. He thinks that he can't improve any further by himself and wishes his mentor was there. He thinks about how he can't believe he would think that, and that he had left home because he was fed up with the magic training, but wishes that there was someone who was researching magic just like his mentor. We catch up with Ruru and the boy. They see a nest of red slimes, and the small boy say that the red slime was a subjugation quest and that they will make perfect targets for his training. Ruru remembers the woman at the guild asking him to take care of Lin, and he takes out his bow form storage. The boy asks what he just did, and Ruru tells Shem that this is the only thing he is good at, and that he was taught this by this friend in the past. The boy says that this is the first time he has seen a spell like that, and says they should go and defeat them. He takes out his bow and takes aim. The boy tries to but loses control. Ruru asks if he is okay, and he says he is. The small boy says that that was his best. Ruru asks to borrow the bow and tells him that he is too stiff, and that he isn't putting in enough strength in his arm, and that he should watch the target carefully and predict their movement. He aims and shoots, and the boy is excited. Ruru tells him to keep it up and aim for the core. He tells him to pull his chin up a little and keep calm and stabilize his body, and then asks him to shoot, and he ends up hitting it again. Ruru thinks about how he thought the boy was clumsy, but he was wrong. He thinks about how Lin is a fast learner and that he was probably self-learning, and that's why he couldn't improve. He thinks about how he should be able to get promoted early and congratulates him. He asks him if he has gotten the hang of it, and he says he has. Ruru says that they should keep it up and defeat the rest of them, and the boy agrees that they should beat all of them. Ruru thinks about how it took quite a lot of time because there were so many, and that he wishes he could shoot continuously instead of shooting one by one. It would be better. He says they should collect the corpses and return. The boy looks over and sees a monster. Ruru wonders why it appeared in the daytime, and the boy says they need to run. They think about the red slime corpses and how even though they had defeated so many of them, they can't just leave without taking them as proof. Ruru says they have no choice, and then he wields his bow and shoots. It hits the monster and instantly kills it. This shocks the boy, and he tells Ruru that he is very strong. The boy tells Ruru that he had a suspicion that he was very strong. The boy says that to think that he was taught by such an amazing person and that he is sorry for the trouble. Ruru says he shouldn't apologize as he was the one who hid his rank. They return to the guild, and the woman welcomes back Lin. She tells them that they are really late. Lin gives her the corpses and Luna Magra as a bonus. She is shocked upon hearing this, and Ruru says that people would rethink their opinion about him with that. Lin thanks Ruru, saying that he has helped him a lot. He says that it's important to apologize, but that he is apologizing too many times, and the boy apologizes again. He thanks Ruru, and the boy asks if he is stumped. He says yeah, and Lin says that he has an idea and tells Ruru, and Ruru thinks it's a great one. Back at that Furin Kingdom, Alan is drinking, thinking about how he the hero, and they all have no discerning eye for character. He tells them that this isn't the end. Sheena asks Eren if he is sure, and he says of course as he is the hero, and Ruru asks if that means that he has decided. They all head to the Holy Church Nation. Sheena asks if everyone is ready, and that they should depart. They all agree, and they seem to have figured out something. Lloyd thinks that he will still do his best, but he was feeling quite anxious. He thinks about how he doesn't want to burden anybody. They ask if they are going the wrong way and how they should have arrived in Schwartz by now. They ask Lloyd if he can detect people's presence with his detection magic. He says he can't sense anything at all, and that they should be on the right road. He looks up ahead and thinks about if he is imagining it, or if it has been getting hard to see around there. He wonders if there is a mist. Duggett thinks about how he didn't hear anything about mist appearing in the forest. Ruru notes that the mist is getting thicker, and Silica wonders where it had come from. Lloyd thinks that this is bad, that the mist is obstructing his detection magic. He thinks about how the mist contains power, and that he could no longer detect anything in this area. He ponders about the mist that contains magic power and how he had never heard of such a thing, and there is no way that this is a natural occurrence. He tries to calm himself down. Silica mentions the mist, and Sheena says they need to hurry, and it's most likely the work of the demons. Even if they told him to hurry, they wonder how they would get out of the mist, and judging from the feeling, the mist is spread in a wide area. Duggett calls out to him and tells him that they aren't waiting for them to move. Lloyd says that he doesn't know, and monsters with a keen sense of smell can find them regardless of the visibility, and they have no choice. Sheena agrees, and they say the monsters are agitated in the mist, not to mention they seem to be terrified of something. As they are running, Sheena asks them to stop. They ask why, and she asks them to look at the ground. They all start to think that they are in Schwartz City, and they wonder what is happening. Silica begins to question where the city's people are. Sheena and Korea call out to the others, asking where they are, and Duggett says that they can't see anything. Silica says that if she could clear it out, but Lloyd tells her not to. Silica says that she had used it already. Lloyd says that he might be overthinking, but if they clear the mist, the enemy will be able to see them clearly. Once that happens, they'll be able to find Claire, who is concealing her magic presence. They enter the city and find everybody passed out. Lloyd says that this is terrible. Duggett wonders if the monsters did it. Korea says that this was meaningless slaughter, that they would never do this. Lloyd says that there is a possibility that this is a highly intelligent monster, but that is unlikely. They wonder who killed the people and that something is wrong. Just suddenly appears, landing with his fist in the ground, throwing up a wall of dust. He looks at Lloyd and the rest of the adventurers and says that to think that you would appear here. He goes on to say that he hasn't been watching the area, but finding them here does save him time. He looks at Claire with a grin on his face and tells her that it's been a while as she looks back at him confused. He says that he guesses Claire can't tell who he is in this form. He casts an illusion and turns into the Royal Army commander that kidnapped her. Yu stands in front of Claire as she looks on at just transforming. She calls out, saying that he's one of the 5 commanders. 5 commanders? Says Duggett, the Empire's strongest forces? He goes on to ask what it means since all the 5 commanders are supposed to be beast folk, but he looks like a demon. Yu calls him out, saying that he's been fooling everyone. He confirms her suspicions and mentions that it took a lot of work to change not only his appearance, but also the nature of his magic power. Claire says that her father trusted him and thinks back to the one who kidnapped her. Gist tells her that it was him and admits to disguising himself as a beast folk and being undercover for years. He shouts that all his efforts were for nothing and were wasted because of Lloyd. He says that he lost his chance to distinguish himself among the other 4 heavenly kings. Then he tells them that the city's people picked a fight with him, so he slew them all, but he wasn't satisfied. He declares that he would only be satisfied after killing Lloyd. 4 heavenly kings, Lloyd repeats in disbelief. Gist corrects him, saying that he is one of the 5 commanders, but Lloyd is already worried, thinking about how the 4 heavenly kings are the top 4 in a demon king's army. Lloyd mentions that he expected a surprise attack by a small number of elites, but certainly didn't expect a top gun to appear. Grist explains that by using Claire's power, Ishtar and the hero were supposed to be crushed in the clash, especially a hero who had suddenly made a name for himself. He adds that Lloyd was a hindrance because they knew nothing about him. Lloyd thinks that they attacked Ishtar because they were worried about Alan, who had become a hero just a year ago and still didn't have a moniker like the other heroes. Grist continues, stating that in the end, they were all small fries not worth crushing but ones who could still be used. He demands that Claire be returned to him. The group's faces fill with worry and shock. Duggett looks at Lloyd and suggests they should run, but Lloyd doesn't think it's possible to outrun Grist, especially after seeing his speed earlier. The others agree that they have no choice but to fight him. Lloyd wonders if they can win against him, considering the area is still filled with mist and defeating him alone would be difficult. He tells everyone that he has an idea, and Yu asks if it's a plan. Lloyd clarifies that it's not a plan, it's a gamble. Meanwhile, someone walks through the mist, commenting that he hadn't heard about this situation. He walks on top of an ice pier and expresses his frustration about leaving this situation to inferior adventurers. He wonders what the Emperor was thinking and declares that he won't let the demons take Claire. Gist stands before Lloyd, cracking his knuckles. He asks him if he's done saying his last words. "You're pretty confident waiting for our talk to be finished," Yu says as Lloyd notes that Gist is using his ring as a medium to cast his spells. He further notes that Gist's magic spells aren't even high-level ones. Lloyd notes that since he has cast body strengthening on himself, he's most likely a close combat fighter type. He adds that he's consuming far more magic than what is necessary to strengthen himself. Lloyd and Duggett stand closest to Gist, with Yu standing in front of Claire guarding her, and Silica at the back providing ranged support. Lloyd notes that normally he would focus on defense rather than attacking the enemy and wait for his magic power to run out. But the problem with his plan is Gist's overwhelming amount of magic power. Lloyd adds that Gist's power doesn't come from technique, but rather from consuming a massive amount of magic power. This being a combat strategy only made possible because he's a demon. He thinks this as Gist heads towards Lloyd, fist clenched, telling him to clench his teeth and prepare. Gist's fist lands and hits Duggis's shield. Duggis's face is filled with shock. He's stunned at the attack that throws him flying. Yu tries calling out to him as he lands, his face full of blood, and his shield broken in half. Looking on as it's happening, Yu proclaims that there's no way he just broke through Duggis's shield with one hit. "This is the end," Gist says as he clenches his fist and prepares to hit him again. Duggis looks up at Gist about to attack him, his eyes widen as Gist's fist heads for him. Before it can reach him, he casts storage and summons another shield, blocking his attack with his new shield. His new shield withstands the punch without breaking. The others look on in shock. "That would have been dangerous if Lloyd didn't buff me," Duggis says. Yu asks about the shield, and he tells her that it's made from a very hard ore called mithril, and that it was apparently made by an amazing blacksmith. He further adds that he got it as a gesture of goodwill. He lastly says that it's too heavy though, so it's difficult to carry. Gist says that no matter what kind of things the adventurers take out, they will be pointless. "Here I go," he says as he unleashes a flurry of punches at Duggis. He's enduring the attacks, Lloyd says, as Claire notes that Gist's hands remain uninjured even after he punched that many times. She wonders if his hands have comparable hardness to mithril. As Douglas gets worn out, Yu strikes Gist from behind, jumping and slashing her sword onto his back, proclaiming that she is Gist's opponent. Gist looks unfazed, turns his face towards Yu, telling her to come on and adding that she thinks she can cut him with that toy. Shocked, she says that her attack connected. Nope, Gist says, your sword didn't hit me. What does this mean? Yu says. He's using magic manipulation, Lloyd figures out. Yu asks, magic manipulation? Lloyd tells her that the magic aura that he's releasing is covering his entire body like armor, which is why he was able to hit the mithril shield without taking any damage or hurting himself. He doesn't actually hit the shield, Lloyd says. Gist notes that Lloyd could see through his magic manipulation. He adds that he knew someone not in the report he had was messing with his plan. He asks Lloyd if that someone was and calls Lloyd the Irregular. Gist says that he will simply kill all the adventurers. He starts with Cross, the archer who's been silently trying to look for an opening from afar. Just then, Silica, the mage, shouts, "Over here," as she casts a spell, creating a huge explosion that completely swallows Gist. Amazing, says Lloyd, as Douglas wonders where she learned to cast such an advanced spell. Silica thinks that it was her strongest spell and that if it wasn't effective, but before she can complete her thought, a figure appears in the explosion. As it slowly clears up, Gist stands there unharmed and unfazed, just angered, saying that Silica's attack tickled him. No way, she says, stunned and shocked, leaving her mouth open. Don't you ignore me, shouts Yui as she comes up from behind him, launching another attack, her sword slashing into Gist's back once more. He looks back at her with anger, calling her incredibly annoying and engaging her, thus turning his back to Lloyd. As he turns his back, he reveals a cut made by Yu on his clothes. Upon seeing this, Lloyd has a realization. I get it now, he says. Lloyd thinks back to the fight so far and to Gist's armor. At first glance, Gist's magic aura looks like impenetrable armor, but you can chip away at the magic aura by attacking and hitting it. Gist repairs his magic armor constantly, every time it takes damage, thus creating indestructible armor. His magic armor was already damaged by Silica's attack. Moreover, he was gathering his magic armor into his fist, pushing most of his aura to the front, pooled around his fist, leaving his back with even less magic armor. Yu even managed to hit him with a surprise attack in the back when all those conditions coincided, but she could only graze him. One of Lloyd's companions is hit by Gist. His fist meets his shield, resulting in a loud explosion. Arrows hurl at Gist, but he is unbothered and unfazed. One of Lloyd's companions shouts that the arrows can't reach Gist. Silica shouts "burst" as Yu lunges in with her sword, but she is unable to do anything. It's futile. Yua. Lloyd shouts as the fight rages on. He finds her on the ground, asking him if there's any other way. Lloyd deduced by the location of the city and the abnormality of the mist that it would have been reported to the royal capital. Lloyd gambled on the hope that it would have been reported and that the royal capital would have sent reinforcements. As the battle heats up and it seems that loss is inevitable, Lloyd's companions' faces fill with disdain. They lose hope and ask if it's the end. Gist turns to Lloyd and proclaims that it's time to settle this. He screams at Lloyd to die as he punches him. Before Gist's punch can land, someone steps in between them. With a single snap, he casts magic so powerful it shocks everyone. Lloyd, Yu, her companions, and even Gist's face fill with shock and surprise. The mystery person notes that the adventurers are all tattered. He stands in front of Lloyd, facing the immense magic he just cast, and asks if all adventurers are such small fries. He further says that he didn't have high expectations from them to begin with. He adds that he'll forgive them since they are protecting Claire. This shocks Claire, and it's revealed that he's also a beast person. A man sits far away, watching Lloyd and his companions go head-to-head with Gist. He comments that the beast folk broke through the mist from above. As he's overlooking the battle, Will sneaks up behind him and asks if he's observing them by himself. He notes that it's weird that Will managed to slip through his mist without being detected. What kind of trick did you pull? Will asks. The man asks if Will would understand if he said that he deconstructed the magic. In short, he says that he has seen through all the person's tricks. The man says that he wonders what he's talking about, but he adds that it doesn't matter since Will would die here. The person casts magic towards Will. As Will disappears, he proclaims that he thought Will was better than that. Will appears behind the person and says that it was presumptuous of him to assume that he killed him. I guess I overestimated him, the man says. Oh, what does this mean? He goes on to say. He further comments that Will isn't carrying any weapons or shields, so he wonders how he is able to survive it. Will says that he already told him he's seen through all the man's tricks. The man, afraid and stunned, asks Will who in the world he is. He comments that he is just a humble alchemist. Lloyd, Claire, and the beast person stand on the battlefield. Claire and Lloyd sit behind the beast person, wondering who he is. Claire runs up to the beast person, calling out to him with the name Celian. Is he someone you know? Lloyd asks Claire. She tells him yes, he is her childhood friend and one of her heroes, the Ice Crystal Hero Celian. Ice Crystal Hero? Yu wonders. She wonders if he's the hero who didn't get acknowledged by the Holy Church nation because of his bad behavior. Celian, was it? Lloyd says. He further asks if he came here to assist them at the request of the royal capital. Stunned, Celian says, who would take a request from that emperor. He further says he came because he doesn't trust the small fry adventurers. Bad Celian, you shouldn't say that, Claire says. Yu asks if Celian came into this mist by his decision. Celian is a very kind person, his other companion says. Lloyd notes that he looks like he's an ally but is still hesitant. Silica calls out to Lloyd and says that she guesses that the mist isn't because of the demon in front of them, the demon Gist. She says that even though Gist is strong, she doubts that he would be able to keep generating the mist while also constantly cladding himself in armor. Lloyd says that it must mean there's another demon around somewhere. Silica says that she believes so. She says that if the other demon were to join the fight, she doesn't believe they would be able to win even with the hero on their side. As they are talking, the magic that Gist was trapped in starts to crack and blow. It catches the attention of everyone. They all turn their faces toward the sound of the explosion and see cracks in the magic ice as Gist punches out. Was it you? He says as Douglas, Celian, Lloyd, and his companions all look at Gist with determination and fear. Celian goes on to further ask if Gist was the one who kidnapped Claire. He tells him that it was him. Gist goes on to ask if Celian is the crystal hero Celian. He goes on to say that the face Celian is making isn't one that a hero would make though. Celian asks if Gist has the right to say anything to him. He goes on to say that he is not at all interested in the title of hero. Oh, in that case, Gist says, die. Celian replies, no, you die, as the two begin to fight. Will and the demon lord's right-hand man begin to fight. The right-hand man hurls more mist at him, causing Will to cough. He then comments that it's exactly what he expected from the previous demon lord's right-hand man. The demon lord's right-hand man says that only wind users should be able to counter his mist, and despite that, will render the demon lord's right-hand man's mist ineffective without using wind magic. He finds it mysterious that Will has the advantage yet doesn't try to attack him. He asks if this means Will excels in defense, and Will confirms this. Then the demon lord's right-hand man poses another question to Will. He asks if the potion that Will drank is related to the reason why he isn't affected by the mist. The demon lord's right-hand man continues to converse with Will. He mentions that Will didn't need to avoid the mist, but deliberately chose to do so. He also notices that Will has been drinking another potion periodically while inside the mist right before the effect wears off. Will stands in front of the demon lord's right-hand man and acknowledges his observations, commenting that he is quite observant. Will stands there with his hand on his cheek, admitting that perhaps he's in a tricky situation. However, he also notes that the demon lord's right-hand man has limited means of attack, much like himself. In this fight, the one who reveals their trump card first will likely lose. The two continue to stare at each other with determination in their eyes. Back in the town, Celian and Gist are locked in a tense duel. Celian uses his magic to cover Gist's feet in ice, attempting to freeze him in place. Gist gets startled for a moment as the ice covers his feet, but before long, with minimal effort, he pulls his feet out of the ice, leaving an angered expression on Celian's face. The two stand opposite each other, their faces filled with determination. Celian comments that Gist is quite tenacious, to which Gist reiterates his compliment, acknowledging Celian's resilience. Gist points out that Celian can cast magic chantlessly and even use his own body as a replacement for a staff, and he questions if Celian is truly a beast folk. Lloyd shares Gist's sentiments, noting that while simple magic like storage magic can be cast without chanting and a staff, using advanced offensive magic with this much firepower is hard to believe. Gist is still curious about Celian's identity. prompting Celian to explain that he possesses ice attribute magic resistance within his body. This revelation about resistance puzzles Douglas, and Celian goes on to elaborate that monsters can use magic because they have strong resistance to a specific attribute. Normally, this resistance is fixed to one type of attribute, like fire or wind, but it allows them to activate magic without chanting or needing a medium. Silica, the wizard, questions the possibility of such a phenomenon. Lloyd reflects on his time with his mentor, remembering a research material discussing whether large-scale magic could be used without a medium by mimicking the structure of a monster. The conclusion stated that it was impossible to apply such a method to the human body due to the significant differences in body structure. Additionally, it was also deemed impossible for demons, given their substantial structural differences from monsters. Only the beast folk had the highest probability of obtaining magic attribute resistance, but even so, the chances remained extremely low. Lloyd is perplexed by the fact that both Celian and Claire can cast large-scale magic without a staff, as it contradicts the conventional understanding of magic. Celian continues to explain that, in his case, he possesses the qualities of a hero in addition to his unique constitution. This combination of factors allows Celian to use ice attribute magic limitlessly and without the need for a medium, such as a staff. Gist sarcastically thanks Celian for the explanation and questions whether Celian is looking down on him. Celian retorts that it should be apparent and proceeds to summon more ice magic, confident that even if Gist understands how he uses his magic, there's nothing Gist can do about it. Gist shouts back, claiming that Celian's tactics won't work, but Celian wears a devious smirk, hinting that he has more tricks up his sleeve. What's wrong? Celian asks as he hurls another round of ice shards at Gist. You cannot defeat me if you're only dodging, he tells him. He goes on to say, does perhaps Gist want to be tortured to death? His face fills with a devilish look as he raises his hands, calling down even more ice shards. Claire, standing next to Lloyd, says that Celian normally doesn't have such a dirty mouth. She blames it on his anger, saying that she thinks he's angry. Yu states that she now understands why the Holy Church nation didn't acknowledge him. Cross the Archer adds that his words aren't those that a hero would use, and Douglas finally adds that he can't even assist him in his fight since his way of fighting is so messed up. Claire stands on the sidelines as relief and a smile fill her face. She comments that she believes Celian should be able to win. Lloyd's face, on the other hand, fills with worry and shock. A magical aura surrounds Gist as he balls his hand up into a fist and approaches Celian. Lloyd's worry increases as he wonders what that is and notes that it looks dangerous. He commands Douglas to protect Claire with his shield while he tells Yui, Silica, and Cross to get to cover right away. He looks back at them, his face full of worry. Celian, he calls out, hoping that he is able to endure whatever Gist is about to throw at him. Gist hits the ground right in front of Celian, tearing the ground up and throwing chunks of earth flying, all with a grin covering his face. The Demon Lord's right-hand man looms over the town as a dust cloud starts to rise, and they hear a loud noise. He looks over with a single sweat drop falling down his chin. He is thinking that Gist used a powerful attack, and he continues to think that Gist must have been cornered to the point of being forced to use that. Will thinks that it looks like Gist also has a trump card. He thought that the hero would be fine with Lloyd's support magic, but he might have underestimated the 4 heavenly kings. The Demon Lord's right-hand man looks at Will and says that it looks like they can't afford to be dawdling here any longer. He continues to say that he's going all out. Will stands opposite him with his arms crossed and says that he honestly didn't plan to reveal his identity here, but he has no choice left. His hand reveals 2 potions, and as they are revealed, the Demon Lord's right-hand man's face is filled with fear. The 2 face each other as Will's robe opens to reveal a row of potions, both his hands filled with them. He says that it looks like he also may have to use his trump card. The town is covered in smoke, and it rises from the ground in the center of town after Gist used his trump card. The town is ruined. Under all that rubble lies Lloyd, sitting there with a wooden stake in his leg. Lloyd casts heal on his wound and wonders where the others are. He looks through the rubble and detects their presence. They're alive, he proclaims. Lloyd doubts that Gist will be able to pull off this level of an attack a second time, and even if he can, there has to be a limit, he thinks. We shouldn't prolong this battle any longer, he says as he goes looking for Celian, calling out to him. Celian stands in the midst of ice with his arm injured. Lloyd notes that he was unable to cast strengthening magic on him in time, but it looks like he was able to block Gist's trump attack with an ice wall and ice armor. Claire now stands beside Douglas, whose shield protected her, and calls out to Celian. He asks if Celian is okay and mentions that he looks all tattered. With a chuckle, Celian retorts that it goes for both of them. Gist approaches him and asks, "Are you okay?" As he prepares to attack, Celian tells Claire not to come here, but before he can react, Lloyd leaps forward. He uses his staff to stun and temporarily blind Gist. Celian is shocked by Lloyd's actions and questions what he's doing. Lloyd explains that he's trying to help him out. Celian asks what Lloyd can possibly do, his face filled with anger. Lloyd thinks back to being called useless before saying that he may indeed be useless. He then casts healing magic and strengthening magic on Celian, who notices his arm healing and asks Lloyd what he just did. Lloyd apologizes, saying it's all he can do. Celian tells him to wait and asks him to help him out a bit more. As Gist regains his senses, even angrier than before, Celian cooperates with Lloyd. Claire is shocked, saying, "I can't believe this." Celian is cooperating with another person. She looks at Lloyd and Celian, who stand together, preparing to face Gist. Celian looks at Lloyd and warns him not to drag him down. Lloyd replies, "I'll do my best." "How pointless," Gist says as he looks over at Lloyd and Celian standing together. "Do you want me to wait for your strategy meeting?" he adds sarcastically. "No," Celian proclaims as he starts to create an ice sword using his magic. "It's already finished," he finishes, holding the ice sword in his hand. Celian stands before Gist with the ice sword in hand and tells Lloyd, "Let's go, White Mage." "All right," Lloyd replies. Celian jumps into the air, his sword enveloped in an aura, and strikes Gist. As the sword connects with Gist's body, it shatters into pieces, leaving Celian's face covered with worry and shock. "Is that all you've got?" Gist proclaims. "No matter how many times you try, the result will be the same," he says confidently. Yu's sword slashes into the back of Gist as she shouts, "How about this?" Gist looks back at her, more annoyed than fazed. Silica uses her wand to cast magic. Gist is covered in a mountain of dust. As it settles, he stands in the middle, unhurt. He says that they just don't learn, do they? As a rain of arrows greets Gist, he blocks them effortlessly, further stating that it's pointless even if the adventurers and heroes increase the quantity of their attacks. From a distance, Cross launches a constant and unending barrage of arrows. Lloyd looks at Cross in the ruined building and notes that he's using storage magic to shoot continuously. "It's Lynn's idea," Lloyd says. "So what?" Gist retorts. "Do you think you can break through my magic with that?" He looks at Douglas, who is guarding Claire, Yu, and Selena, determined, with Celian standing ready with his ice sword to attack. He further questions the heroes. "Do you think you are capable of killing one of the demon heavenly kings?" "No," Celian says. He reveals that their aim is not to kill him. He tells Gist to look at his arm. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Gist says. "Your attacks have no effect on me." But before he can complete his sentence, he looks down at his arm. He shouts at Celian, asking what he did. "It's simple," Celian says. "Your arm is affected by necrosis." He further shouts at Celian, asking when this happened. "Your magic armor is certainly tough," Celian replies. He goes on to say that even with their full powers, they couldn't penetrate it. But it had one vulnerability, attacks that couldn't be seen by him. Lloyd carries on where Celian left off, saying that what Gist's magic armor can protect against is limited to what Gist is able to see. "Am I wrong?" he asks Gist. Celian continues, saying that the cold air he produces can't be seen by the naked eye. Shocked, Gist asks when they realize that. Lloyd answers him, saying that he blocks Celian's ice attacks with his magic armor, yet his hair was frozen when Lloyd saw that, and he came up with the idea. He adds that to avoid Gist noticing frostbite, Lloyd cast a healing magic spell and painkillers to remove the pain of the necrosis. Gist thinks back to the attack, realizing that to avoid him noticing it, the adventurers had him focus on repairing his magic armor, and they relentlessly attacked him as a distraction. He goes on to think that for Lloyd to think in an instant and notice the nature of his armor while also coming up with such a plan is impressive. "How are you feeling?" Celian asks Gist, noting that the painkiller's effect should be wearing off anytime soon. He looks at him angrily as Celian leaps at him, shouting that Gist won't escape. As he's heading for Gist, the Demon King's right-hand man is launched and lands in between the two. The sight stuns the adventurers and Lloyd. Michelle calls out to Gist, to which he replies with his name. Lloyd wonders if he is a friend. Michelle gets up and looks at Gist, telling him that they should retreat because there is someone dangerous out there. "What?" says Gist, to which Michelle replies that Gist must have heard of him. He He tells Gist that it's the Phantom Alchemist. Upon hearing this name, sweat rolls down Gist's face. He questions Michelle, saying that it's impossible and adding that the guy's dead. Michelle says that he thought so too, or at least he thought the guy retired. He tells Gist that they need to run before he comes here, and adds that they are no match for him. Celian stands there watching the two talk and says that Gist got a friend, adding that he will kill both of them together. "I'll make you regret it," Celian says, anger evident on his face as ice shards start to form around his hand. Michelle and Gist look at him as a mist fills the area they are standing in. Douglas notes that they are intending to use the mist as camouflage to escape, and he stands in front of Claire to guard her. "I won't let them run," Celian says as he calls out to Lloyd, addressing him as the White Mage. He asks Lloyd if he can use detection magic. Lloyd responds that he can, but he is only able to feel the presence of monsters and animals, not demons. He adds that Michelle and Gist are trying to hide their presence, making it difficult to detect them. "That's more than enough," Celian says with a grin on his face. He tells Lloyd to use presence detection magic simultaneously with thought sharing and extends his hand to him, urging him to do it right away. Lloyd holds Celian's hand and complies. Celian is now able to see all animals and monsters around. All of a sudden, ice covers the city, freezing it in an instant. You and Silica note the sudden freeze. Lloyd thinks to himself that not only did the entire city freeze instantly, but Celian also avoided freezing the monsters while activating his grand-scale magic. Lloyd looks at Celian standing there, realizing that his grand magic may not be enough to kill the demons. He understands why Celian prefers solitude and working alone, because using this kind of ability recklessly could harm his allies. Lloyd acknowledges that he knew Celian was amazing, but that he's in a different league. He thinks to himself, as expected of a hero, but still, while looking at Celian, who seems almost content despite the extensive damage that just occurred. Will reflects on his interaction with Michelle, realizing that it could have been dangerous if he hadn't been prepared. He adds that Michelle is the one who tormented and killed hundreds of thousands of people in the Demon Lord War waged against the Three Kingdoms, the former Demon Lord's right-hand man. He looks down at his hand, still holding the potion, and shivers at the thought of what could have happened if he hadn't perfected the potion. Will acknowledges that he was a bad match against Michelle this time, and that the idea of letting him escape is scary. However, he knows that he can't show himself in public, and can only protect the adventurers and Lloyd secretly. Yu calls out to Lloyd, concerned about his well-being. Lloyd asks if she's okay, and she tells him that she should be the one asking him that. They all embrace each other, relieved that they are all okay. Will walks away, saying that he leaves the rest to Lloyd.